Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today with episode 259 of the H.A.M Radio Podcast.
And it's me, Karak with ACG.
And I'm Dustin from Handsome Phantom.
Hello, Dustin. Welcome to the show.
I was a little nervous about that because you briefed me on like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And then like 2 seconds later, I was like, is that what he said? Like,
yeah, I know that feel.
Yeah.
I've been on the show for a couple hundred episodes and I still do that. No worries.
No, you and I have a pretty good flow now of like not interrupting the first 20
No,
seconds.
but every time I do, I'm so scatterbrained. You'll be like, "Sup, everybody," and I'm in the middle of a drink. Or you know what I mean? Remember that one time you're like, you made a look, and I'm like, for some reason, the moment you start talking, I'm like, that'll be the time for me to chug this. And it's so stupid, man.
That's actually the episode. I was watching some episodes getting ready, and the one I checked out, you were like, "I'm Matty," and then you're like, "Oh, you hesitated there," and you're like, "I was taking a drink."
That's actually the one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's just like I'm like such a dumbass. I don't know what I was doing.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our weekly gaming podcast where we just take the hottest news, we give our takes on them. It's nice and relaxed here, not as formal as what you've come to expect. As always, I have a Patreon. You get early access to this show for just $1. If you want to participate, be a part of the Discord, where we take your questions and answer all of them at the end of the show. That is at a higher tier for $3, and you get all previous perks. And there's a bunch of different levels that you guys can participate in if you want to support the show. We are 200 plus strong now, which is pretty cool.
Awesome.
The highest we have ever been. And I don't know what I did in the last couple of months, but something's working. So appreciate you guys. And Karak, you have a Patreon? You got anything you want to promote?
I do. Yeah, just the multiplayer games, and then every single Saturday we do streams and UFC, and then every Sunday we do streams all day of all different kinds. And mine's $5. Mine's premium compared to Matty's. That's just the honest truth. I'm just joking.
Hey man, if you don't go premium, you'll get douchebags in there.
Oh, dude, trust me. Free to your Discord, bad idea.
Yeah. And Dustin, do you have a Patreon? I never actually.
We do, yeah. For Handsome Phantom, we have a Patreon that you can get our show early, which that's
cool.
The main thing is our show, the HP Podcast. It's a little show, but it's chugging along. So,
awesome. All right.
Yeah.
And Dustin, for anyone who's not familiar with the HP Podcast and they want to get to know you on an intimate level, would you like to just give us the elevator pitch on Dustin?
Sure. So a lot of people probably know me because I work for Colin Moriarty. I'm his editor. So I listen to him, make a lot of disgusting, blather and make gross sounds and burp and stuff in the microphone, and I cut all that out. And so, yeah, it's a good job though. He's a good boss. He takes care of me. So that's kind of the main thing that I do. But as far as my own content, I work with a couple other guys and we are called Handsome Phantom, and we have the HP Podcast, and we're still doing the old school written thing on handsomephantom.com, and we do reviews and previews and do lots of event coverage and stuff like that. So yeah, it's been fun because we just kind of started and had no clue what we were doing, and we still don't really know what we're doing, but we've made it a little bit. So
there you go.
It's been fun.
Yeah, and now you're starting to participate in side quest a little bit.
Right.
Your feet wet.
Yeah, so now, Matty, you and I think Colin put out a post like earlier this week or something about how you and I are going to be switching back and forth on side quest, which is super fun. So I'm excited. I'm working on my first video, and it's one of those things I actually been meaning to talk to you because I want to like how much does Matty put into this? I'm trying to figure. I'm like, does he script all this? Does he not? And I'm like, am I overdoing it? And, is this going to be, am I going to be able to keep up with this consistency every other week? So, but you
want to start strong at least,
Right, of course.
Settle in after
Give
that.
him a false sense of security. Like you're going to do a really good job, my friend. And then after that, dump. Right. Dump your just dump it.
After that, rambles. Don't cut out your stutters and your oops.
None of that.
So yeah, should be cool. First episode would be on the 8th, so next Wednesday. So
I'm excited. Do you want to tease your topic, or we can keep that a secret? I don't want to pressure you.
I can tease it in that I'm playing a very controversial second-party PS4 game. in preparation.
Second party.
Yeah,
Listen
second
closely.
party.
Everyone's like,
Yeah.
Last of Us. No.
No, not Last of Us. So.
All right. So we'll leave it at that. Keep an eye on Colin's Last Stand side quest, where you'll find myself, you'll find Dustin pumping out videos. And now, as tradition dictates with our introduction to the show, we like to just go around, talk about what we're playing, reserve this section just for as casual chatter as possible. Dustin, since you're the guest, have you been playing any games this last week?
So I went real hard on Last of Us 2, just because I had to have it ready and done before Colin's spoiler cast.
I didn't think of that.
Yeah, and that's happened a couple different times. Like the Days Gone review, I was like, it's not going to happen for me, or the spoiler cast. So I just kind of, sometimes I have to edit even if I haven't finished. But so yeah, I just finished up Last of Us Part 2, and it was good. And I don't know if we even want to touch that, but
we can.
I enjoyed it.
Of course we can.
It was, it's fine. That's how I feel a lot of times when there's these big controversies. I'm just like, it's a game. It's good. It has some bad stuff. It has some good stuff, but I don't know why people are freaking out over everything constantly. But and that's one of those things also where it's like, if you don't like it, that's fine too. But it's like, it's not a 2 out of 10. It's not a 3 out of 10, and it's not worth fighting people online about constantly. But teach their own, I guess.
Right.
So
anything else you're gaming around with, or did you just blast through that game and then take a load off?
So I'll bring this up just because it's kind of fun. I had some friends over last Friday, and first we played Nidhogg 2, which I hadn't played since it came out.
I hadn't actually never played that at all.
Oh man, it is one of the most intense multiplayer. I guess it's a fighting game, kind of, but so that was a lot of fun. But we also surprisingly played Everybody's Golf, which
it's a great game.
I had never played the Controller Pass multiplayer, and I feel like it's now like top tier for me, just because you can create your characters and do whatever silly stuff you want, and then the controller passing was like super super fun, and it's like you can set it so it's not super hardcore, so people have never played it can just hop in, and it was a really surprisingly fun time going back to that.
Yeah, I really liked that game when it first came out. I played a ton of it. Sadly, I dropped it as quickly as I like ripped through 20 hours, and I was like, all right, next thing. I like those arcadey golf games because I had this isn't for me and like what I've been playing, but last week my friends and I, for $5 on Steam, they had this game called Golf It, and it's just this first-person mini golf game where people can like create whatever maps they want, and it was just so much fun. Like we were playing on Halo 2 Lockdown, like someone took that actual multiplayer map and turned it into a mini golf course, which was really impressive. We played a Harry Potter one. Like we have like a 4-hour stream. We were just going through all these courses. There was like a YouTube challenge one. So yeah, I just love the arcade style golf games. I always thought they were really fun and had a charm to them, and I like the sport, so I guess that's kind of why too. But still, man, like I love those types of games, especially because Everybody's Golf had like a good progression system in it too.
Right. So is that like Steam Workshop, like mods that people just add like all these crazy levels?
Mm-hmm.
Dude,
yeah, and you can just subscribe, and it's just like boom, it's in your game.
I get addicted to that stuff. Like on if you have VR, like you can use Steam VR and check out just like the Steam VR homes, and so people will put like all kinds of crazy stuff. Like you can go to like the Mario 64 castle in VR and just walk around, and I'll spend like hours just checking out like stupid stuff. So I feel like that golf game I would be all about checking out that dumb stuff.
Yeah, and apparently there's like a better version. Every time like I was playing it, like my chat was like, "Why don't you play golf with friends?"
Oh, I've heard of that. Yeah,
way more reviews, and it looks like it's more positively received. But like I thought Golf It was great. Like it's simple. That's why I like it too. It's just literally the ball. You see your putter. You click, it brings out the putter, and then you just use your mouse to move it back and forward, and you just have to have like a feel for it, just like a general feel of the power. So I'll look into golf with your friends, because everyone is just telling me that's the move, that's the golf game move, but we'll see about that. Karak, have you played either of those games?
Yeah, I played both. Golf with friends is good, but I think at that point, you're sort of just playing golf anyway, so like you didn't miss out on much. You missed out on some better graphics, obviously. But
Okay.
they're a blast to play. I was a fan of Outlaw Golf for the original Xbox, which was like the X-rated or jokey X-rated. It was more like PG-13, but it had like comedians who would say, you know, risque stuff, and your putter or the guy, your caddy, was like, you know, dominatrix or something like that. Like, I've been into all of the, you know, miniature golf games since the Genesis. I think there was a miniature golf game. I can't remember. I think it was Mini 8 or Mini 18. I like that stuff.
I never even heard of that.
Yeah, and EA. It was EA Sports. Well, it wasn't even EA Sports at that time. It was just like EA Games. Like, they didn't. I don't even think they had divisions. And yeah, I've always been a fan of mini golf. Not so much golf in games. It would have to be really good for me to play that.
See, that's funny because I played Tiger Woods PGA Tour 04 for a lot of my childhood, and it was so fun. And I don't know why, because I even growing up, I didn't like sports games that much. Like, I played them more then than I do now, but back then, like, that was the thing that hooked me. And I think it's because you'd like pull back on the backswing and you'd have a button you could press, and it would be like a little golf ball that would fill up with red, and you could do like a power swing, and when you did, it would like change the camera angle and it would turn all cinematic as you just crush the ball like 300 yards, like just something completely unrealistic. So that's probably why I was more attracted to that game. But Midway Sports were probably my jam. Yeah.
Do you know that they have a testing facility just to test how to fix golf swings in games? So if you have like a PS4 controller and you pull back and then go forward, the way a PS4 controller is held, you can never go directly forward because your thumb goes in. And so they legitimately have people try, and what they do is they fake it. You actually don't go perfectly forward because it won't work. They have to fake that so that a human's hand will actually go the way a person like will assume it should go. And I didn't realize it was such a big deal. But when you pull back and go forward in games, a lot of people have a tendency to pull like this. They'll pull to what, because it goes in towards your body.
I bet Skate had to do the same thing.
Skate had to do the same thing. And actually, it came up with Tony Hawk's, the pro skater on the Dreamcast. There was an interview I found with an old developer who was like, dude, it's insanely difficult to get all that just right so that you feel comfortable doing it.
Interesting.
Sports games.
I had no idea.
Sportsgamesdata.com. I'm just joking. I have no clue what it's called, but I did find it. I can post it. It's cool to know how like hard it is to make what we assume is an easy thing.
Yeah, it's definitely helpful. Karak, what have you been playing now?
PSVR Iron Man. Wait for sale for sure on that one. I heard that it's not cool to say, and I don't know why it's not cool to say this game makes you feel like. I guess that's a new thing. Somebody said you're not supposed to say this game makes you feel like Spider-Man, but I think it'd be really fucking weird if the game made you feel like Wonder Woman. So it makes you feel like Iron Man at some points, and it's very good. But there's a lot of loading screens. It's got some of the worst PSVR graphics. And I've had an issue with the PSVR's Vaseline look for years, but this is rough. Like, dude, it's like a box with texture of lights on it for buildings, on most of the buildings, unless it's like a signature. It's really rough. But dude, I got to tell you, in the midst of battle, when you've got everything working right, it can be awesome too. So it's like it's sort of this dichotomy of really fun levels and then really like bad times. Like, you walk around as Tony, just clicking things during the Tony parts, and you're like, why is this happening? It doesn't really feel right. And then you jump in the armor, you can fully upgrade it. You have there's multiple spots on the armor you can upgrade. You can get skins, all that kind of stuff. So for a PSVR game, it's good. It's longer than, remember Batman Experience? Did you ever do that one?
Yeah, that was like, what, 40 minutes?
40 minutes, right? And I got in huge arguments with people about the cost of that game. I was like, it's ridiculous. You should never pay that. This one is 6 hours, so it is much better on the purchase side. However, it's so much rougher looking than Batman Experience. It's rough, really aliased, really jaggy. And then Hyperscape, which is Ubisoft's new BR. And it was weird because I was in a Discord with some Twitch streamers, and they kept saying there's this game we want to talk about, but we can't tell anybody what it is. That happened to be the game, and I can see why, because that is probably the only BR I've ever not only enjoyed, but absolutely adored. However, it is at minimum Unreal 1999 fast. It is beyond belief fast, and it is crazy how quick it is. But they have done amazing things with design. Like if you see a weapon, if you have the shotgun, you go to another shotgun instead of more ammo or a useless upgrade, right? You fuse it. You upgrade the shotgun 4 levels, and every upgrade adds more things, not just damage, but maybe a bigger magazine. You can also upgrade your 2 skills you get, like invisibility or the ability to bounce around the level in a giant metal bouncy ball. Like just crazy shit. It's in the Assassin's Creed universe. They announced, where they sort of hinted this morning that it's inside. It looks like it's inside the what is the thing?
Animus.
Yeah, because it's got the triangles, and the actual world devolves as the area gets smaller in the triangles and discolors. It turns dark. But it's probably got the most Unreal 1999 level of shooting, and I want my shooter to be as fast as humanly possible. Like, I want to not know what's happening. That's like the minimum speed of a game for me, and this game is there. There's times where I died, and I got in a game once with one of the pro players, and I died, and I was like, dude, I have no clue what killed me. Like, it was that fast. And he's like, no, that was me from over here. And I know for a lot of people, they're not into that. But for me, I'm a Doom 2016 fan. And that's easily what this speed is at all times. There's downtimes when you're traveling to meet a group. But, dude, when you get up close and personal, it is a ball. It is so fucking fun. And it's free. So people should try it.
I mean, to play that.
You're not going to lose anything, right? It's free. So
it looks solid. One of the things I liked most, I was watching a GameSpot video. They actually did a really good video.
Oh, did they do a video on it?
What made it different? And so, like, I knew about the gun upgrades. That was like the first thing that clicked in my head, where I was like, okay, I like that. That it's not just RNG. Get lucky, find the best weapon. It's you can make a bad weapon to maybe a good one down the line, or at least serviceable. The other thing, though, was the way the map, it's not a circle where sometimes like it just circles in on it closes in rather on a bush. It's like the sections of the map go away, so the design is always intact, no matter what is the final part of the city. Maybe some parts are better than others, but it's like a designed area. So I liked that a lot. To me, those were the two things that pushed me away from BR. Like, even I loved Apex Legends.
Me too.
The way it felt, the way it played, even how it looked. Just something about it was really appealing, but those same tropes in BR just got to me there, especially because what happens is these Battle Royale games expand more and more. Let's add more weapons, abilities, items, and eventually it just becomes, to me, it's just more and more RNG. That's what it feels like, and maybe I'm not a pro. I'd say I was pretty good at Apex when it first came out. But yeah, Hyperscape had my attention because it seems like it maintains the core of a BR while saying, like, oh, okay, we're going to try to slim down the odds so you have a chance.
And I do have to add, because I don't want to forget this, Matty, it's the first game I've ever seen of this kind that when you die, you're completely useful to your team. So when you die, you run around, you can still tag, you can follow people, they can see you, and you can tag enemies. So you can be like, the guy's coming around the corner, blah, blah, blah. You can do all that. But the cool thing is not only are you doing all of that, if you want to get resurrected, you can go to a spot, or somebody on your team kills somebody and their body becomes a resurrection point. So we had times where people were like, okay, I'm going to kill this guy, but don't try to spawn here because there's another guy here. So I'm going to kill this guy. And then we'd run off to the other spots to resurrect. And additionally, all of the doors and windows are glassed like a hologram, and the audio is magnified. So you can choose. We were, no lie, one of the guys got up on the second level and he's like, I'm going to break this window to get those guys to come, but we're going to leave down the bottom. And we ran and looked up, and you could see them going in the second level thinking we were up there while we were running below them all at the same time. It was, I mean, the level of strategy in that game is beyond, I mean, because I'm a big Apex fan, but dude, this, even what I played now, I enjoyed those 12, 13 hours of this far more than all of my time in Apex. And you know me, I liked Apex just like you. But this is just, it's so fun to sort of see somebody do something where a dead person doesn't lose and doesn't just sit there bored. Like, it was super useful sometimes to say, don't heal me, and I'll just tell you where the enemies are. Like, because we have one really good guy on the team. Like, he's pro level. And I was just like, don't heal me, man. I'll tell you where they are, you know?
So even if, like, the idea I'm getting is even when you're dead, you're still playing.
You are. Yeah. You're fully still playing. And then if all three die, your team is gone, of course. But it was so cool to have that so that you could post up. And again, it just stops the person who dies early from like sitting there, like, there's nothing to do. Mm-hmm. And instead, there were multiple ways of engaging, whether it's just bring me back in and I'll get the healing skill and blah, blah, blah. You can also, all skills can be fused. So if you see the same skill, you pick it up and it levels up your skill to something new. So like invisibility, now you can do invisibility for longer and it's faster, or hyper jump goes farther, or, whatever. So there's no real downtime until your entire team is gone, which I think is a huge plus. Also, the lobby is the map. So you can actually tell people where you want to go while you're in the lobby. You can ping the location. So you look out onto the map and there's like a tower and you can ping it while you're in the lobby and go, let's go there. Then when you come out of your hyperpod, you actually already have the ping set up and everybody knows where you want to go. It's fantastic. Kind of seems like
it rights some of the wrongs. Isn't it funny how they're known for like third-person open-world games, but when they make a shooter, it kind of is it's really weird. Good. Between Siege and this, it just seems like they've hit the nail on the head twice, even though they're 4 years apart.
It's got some issues, but I mean, nowhere near some of the other BRs I've played where I knew they were dead day one. Where you're playing and you're like, yeah, this is not going to work.
My only issue with the game is the art. It just seems very bland.
I can see that,
and it's not. My friend was roasting me for this, like no tomorrow. Like, he was just going in on me, like, it's got to be competitively viable. Why does it matter how it looks? Like,
it has to. I think it needs to.
Yeah, but I was just saying, I feel like you could look at a game like Apex and go, like, this looks good and plays well, and that's the only thing with this game that it didn't grab me right away.
Generic.
I don't like to use that word for this because it's almost original in what it is. It's just so devoid of any form of color.
Makes sense.
It's like, it reminds me almost of Mirror's Edge, except everything's like a silver. It's strange, at least from what I saw quickly. I'll have to go back and look. I am up to trying it. The way they're handling the getting people in with codes is, I think, so weird. They did the same thing with Valorant, like just having people watch to get the code, and I just... I don't say this in a privileged way, but, like, I'm sure if I shot Ubisoft an email, they'd be like, yeah, sure, here's some codes.
That's how I got the code.
Yeah. I just don't want them to waste the codes because I don't know how much I'll play it, to be honest. I'd rather them wait to be like, hey, it's available for everyone, go download it.
Makes sense. And that's it.
Sorry.
No,
that's it?
That's it.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. All right, so what I was playing this past week, I got The Last of Us Part 2 in the mail yesterday, 2 days ago. I want to start it this weekend and give it like a good run through. So I've spent the rest of this week just playing my whatever games I like to call them. So as I told you boys before, I've been playing Civilization. Dustin mentioned, what was it, a terracotta?
The terracotta, because we're replacing some pipes in my yard. So yeah.
Yeah.
You knew what that was, though, because of Civ.
Exactly, yeah. Like Dustin said that, and I remember seeing like a Wonder or something had the word terracotta in it. I was like, I know now. So video games do teach you things. And I've been playing Civ 6 this past week. It's been a lot of multiplayer sessions with my friends and I. I know one of our patrons, Grim, was actually playing a ton of Civ 6.
With his mom.
Was it really with his mom?
It was absolutely. Him and his mom. Yep. I thought it was awesome.
That's great. That is awesome. The multiplayer is something I've never played with in Civilization. I've only played single player, and I only played Civ 5. I tried Civ 6 on the Switch. I did not like it. It's not that it's a bad port. It's just that I feel like the accessibility to all the data you have when you're on the PC and how quickly you can maneuver around and handle multiple turns, it's just a lot better. Plus the larger map. It feels like it plays better on PC, I guess is the long story short. But I've just been enjoying... refamiliarizing myself with everything because I was not like a Civ pro at all. Part of the reason, this was back when I had a lot more free time. I got Civ 5 on a sale. I did one full campaign and literally uninstalled it immediately because I said, this is too addicting. That was my exact word. Now, I don't have like an addictive personality, but I was like, this is something that will shred any dedication I have to my college because I will be addicted to Sims, or Civ, not Sims. And, so I've hopped back into Civ 6. A couple friends and I picked it up for $16 on the Steam sale, which wasn't too bad. And what's funny also is Civ 5 is a higher price. I think Civ 5 is on sale for $30, so I'm not sure what's up with that. And that's not like any DLC. It's just Civ 5.
Weird.
Yeah, it's not even like Brave New World. It's just Civ 5. It's really weird. But I like Civ 5's art style way more. Civ 6, I feel, kind of was the beginning of everyone caving to that same Pixar level art style.
Agreed.
And so it doesn't look right, but like when you're in game, it's really not noticeable. It's just when you're getting those cutscenes of like the world leaders talking to each other. But I don't have much to say on it. It's been great. It's a nice change of pace from we've been playing like MOBAs and Valorant like a couple weeks ago. So it's been nice to just play something a little more slow. And we get into character in a sense, like where we're like, if like my friend, I forgot what exactly he did, but I use that in my trade negotiations. I'll be like, well, you see, you forgot to game share me this game, so I'm gonna say you have to pay me 50 extra gold now. Like we just really try to like reprise the roles of like tough world leaders, and it's been fun that way. We like to do that, so it's been really good. But outside of that, yeah, I'm still chipping away at Dragon Age Inquisition. About
I heard you guys
in.
were both not liking it, and when on the episode I listened to, I was like,
Well, with the camera mod, I like it a lot better. Camera mod, the camera mod changed my mind because I do not like Inquisition, but the camera mod, I was telling Matty, I really want him to try it because I'm doing a video just on how a camera can change your entire thought on a game, like how close you are to the narrative. Yeah, and well, either did I, but I forgot that Nexus files or whatever, where we go to get our Skyrim stuff, just has so many web pages, so like Hitman's on there and all these games, and it showed up, and I was like, that looks pretty cool. Looks a little like Skyrim. And I was playing it going, oh my God, the combat feels 10 times better. Just, I think a camera can affect you. I'm not saying it's a great game. The hinterlands can fuck off. But I think it does show some importance for like who chooses what camera and how much, flexibility you have.
I with Inquisition, like I said, I'm 20 hours in, so I'm kind of nearing or around the halfway point. I'll just reiterate what I said last time, which is I've never had to more like passionately say screw off to a game side content unless I have to. Because the way it's structured is like to get to the next main mission, you need X amount of power. So you can't just say forget the side content, I'm going with the story. You have to make sure you have X amount of power to unlock the next story mission. So right now I think I need like 15 or 30. And to me, that's kind of what's pushed me away. The main story is actually pretty good. It's better than I remembered. But it's just that knowing I have to go into the side content to get to that thing that's interesting me is what I'm going to push through, because everyone's been telling me, like, try the DLC. So that's how I'm going to wrap it up and do my 2020 review. But I'm certainly taking my time with it. And I imagine I'll probably beat The Last of Us Part 2 before I beat that game, because nothing's really changing. So I'm just doing diligence here, and I will update everyone with a full review when it's ready. Giving more in-depth thoughts. But for now, gentlemen, let's get into the news. Starting off with a potential game price increase. So this comes through NBA 2K21. We're reading an article here from The Verge. It says 2K Games has announced that it'll sell the next-gen PS5 and Xbox Series X versions of the upcoming NBA 2K21 for $69.99, a $10 increase to the current-gen Xbox One and PS4 versions of the games. And it's the first indication that the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 may be bringing a price increase from the standard $60 that major video games have been sold at for years when they do arrive this fall. So with this, gentlemen, what do you think about what is likely to come here with a $10 price increase? I think it's very unfortunate that the conversation begins with NBA 2K, because certainly they could probably lower the price of their game. But let's go ahead and talk about it. What do you guys think?
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I feel like it's about time. It makes sense. I mean, last time we had a game price increase was during the beginning of the 360 PS3 generation, right? So inflation, it makes sense. I'm not an economist, so I don't really know. I've always wondered about how the economy of scale. So if more people are gaming now and buying more games, then if that's kind of sustained that price for longer than normal, since it used to be like every generation. I mean, I guess not every, because it's so confusing with the Super Nintendo games would be, $80 or something, depending on the chipset inside.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think you're right, Maddie. The conversation is kind of already getting muddy because people are like, well, in NBA, what about microtransactions? They're already raising the price on a game full of microtransactions. I'm like, you're not wrong, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I feel like maybe Sony and Microsoft are kind of glad that they didn't have to bear the bad news. That we don't have total confirmation that this is going to be confirmed, but I don't see any reason why not. So it would be really weird if only the 2K sports games are $69.99 and not everything else. So I don't know. It's one of those things too where it's a hard conversation because you don't want to talk about like everyone's scale on how expensive things should be and how much money you have is different per person, right? So it's one of those things where at this point too, so many games, it's like if you can't spot this $69.99 in like 2 weeks, it'll probably be down to the regular price. Now with the new console generation, it might be a little longer, but I don't know. It's hard to say. Game prices are all over the place, especially right now, I feel like, with how quickly things go on sale and things like that. But I don't know. I feel like it makes sense is my stance, I guess.
Okay. Karak?
I do, at least from the couple of people that I talked to, it does sound like, at least for right now, they are the only ones going up. But I think there's a reason why. Also, when you look at Sean Layden, what he just said, Layton, from Sony, where
I had the interview up.
His timing just happened to coincide with this, where he was like, "Listen, price, something's going to change, and like first party, or the big first party games are going to have to get shorter. There's price issues, there's people issues." I have a feeling they'll do some testing. I do, from what I'm hearing, Microsoft, like those companies, like a Microsoft, is not looking at raising their prices. I think what is weird is we go by 60. But most of my Discord is European or Australian or Canadian. They're not United States. And I didn't realize how screwed over for prices they already were. Even without translation, most of them are at 70 already. So that was weird. And that sort of was an eye-opener for me to find that out, because I was not aware of that. And then everybody was like, no, dude, here's the price list. And they were showing me price lists from their stores. If it works, though, others will join, right? Like, and it's going to work because we all three are not talking to the group that's going to buy it. We're not. Yeah. I can yell all I want, but the people who follow me know I base my reviews on price anyway. So they're like, this is a $40 game. Karak thinks 40 is different than 60, so his expectations are different. I can guarantee you that nobody watching my channel is the person who's going to spend 70 on those games. It's the friend Maddie has that was golfing with him, who called his dad to be able to buy microtransactions. That's and the kids I teach martial arts to, every one of them, they don't even know what I'm talking about when I bitch about this. They're like, dude, you look like a lumberjack. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I just bought the game twice. And you're just like, all right, So I think that's scary for me, is that we know about them, but our data is not getting out to everybody. Going like, are you sure you want that? Because it does have micros still,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's sad, but it's a thing. I don't see it stopping. That's for sure. And you're right, by the way. The old games, I still have receipts for the old Sega Genesis and NES games. Star Control for the Genesis, $89.99.
Right.
So, because it had the Meg chip in it. So, yeah, we paid some weird prices in the old days.
I think Earthbound was like one that was particularly expensive because it had the guidebook and all that.
It had the guidebook and all that. It was crazy. I think back then, too, I mean, obviously, because of inflation, you look at it, and that would have been close to $100.
Right.
We still bought it. So I'm assuming young me is the young kids who are ignoring me now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, man. I can't say I'm particularly surprised at a potential hike. I would be surprised if Microsoft did it still, because I feel like they could use it to push people into their ecosystem, because they have Game Pass, which includes all the first-party games. So I could totally see them saying, we're keeping it at 60, and if you want it cheaper, go into the Game Pass program. And I put cheaper in quotes because they're getting you more long-term, but you get my point.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Karak had mentioned earlier that VentureBeat put out a interesting article with Sean Layden where they interviewed him, and he did pretty much directly talk about this. So I just want to go ahead and read this quote because I think it's pretty important to our conversation, and we can build our thoughts off of it. So GamesBeat asks Sean, games are huge now. You had some concerns about how much these games are costing and how risky they are to undertake. Layden says, I still remember when games would cost $1 million to make. Those games are long gone. The cost of creating games has increased. Some studies show that's gone up 2 times every time a new console generation advances. The problem with the model is it's not just sustainable. Major AAA games in the current generation go anywhere from 80 million to 150 million or more to build, and that's before marketing. It's a huge upfront cost, extended over time. It takes 3 or 4 or 5 years to build a game while you're not getting any return on the investment. You just continue to pay into it looking for the big payoff at the end. So there's more here, but this is something Karak and I had actually mentioned in multiple episodes around, I want to say late 2017 or early 2018, where we talked about the upfront cost and why you saw more microtransactions. I want to say it was late 2017 because it might have been tailing off of Battlefront 2. Anyway, I don't think in the next generation you can expect those numbers and multiply them by 2 and expect the industry, or take those numbers, multiply them by 2 and expect the industry to continue to grow. The industry as a whole needs to sit back and think, what are we building? What's the audience expectation? What is the best way to get our stories across to say what we need to say? That's going to cause the industry to look at the kind of games we're doing, where we're going from there and what we're putting into them. It's hard for every adventure game to shoot for 50 or 60 hours of gameplay. That's going to be so much more expensive to achieve. In the end, you may close some interesting creators and their stories out of the market if that's the threshold you have to meet. If you don't have 30 hours of gameplay, you have a game. You don't have a game ? We have to reevaluate that shibboleth, I think. So with that in mind, Sean Layden, former head of PlayStation Studios, for those who aren't aware, and he's put it out there perfectly. I think that with the cost of making games going up, there has to be return on value, generally speaking. But the question has been brought up multiple times on microtransactions. Where does the industry go from here? Like, okay, you want us to pay $10 more. Are we paying $10 more to try to wean off those microtransactions in most games, or are we doing that to suffice for that upfront cost that Sean was talking about? That's why it's hard for me to pick a side on this, because I understand, as much as it sucks, there is the business aspect to it all, but then there is that potential of a company like EA or 2K, which is, like I said, why it really sucks that the conversation began with a company like 2K, because you already know this. They wouldn't have a problem selling it for $80 and putting microtransactions in. I don't think it sets a good example for what to expect, because now what's going to happen is it's going to optically appear as if 2K set the standard and everyone followed suit, which in a sense maybe some will if they see it working, like Karak mentioned. But I just feel like the game price increase was inevitable if you want more games like. This is not a good example, but like a game like Inquisition, which is with all its flaws, it's still a very big game. There's tons of cutscenes. There's a lot of outcomes. There's various companion arcs. There's a lot there. DLC, like true DLC, not like free added-on updates or turning into a service. So if you want to see more of those, you're probably going to want to have a price increase. But my main point that I took away from this is I'm just going to continue to pay attention more to games like Biomutant, Greedfall, those types of games, which were at $50 during our... Yeah, Vampire,
Sorry.
Thank you. No, you're right, and it's a great example, because those are games that are $50 in our $60 world that are now going to be $60 in a $70 world, and that'll be more acceptable for people, and it's something that a lot of folks should really keep their eye on, because these are games that were getting swept under the rug that may benefit, because they're still going to be in that normal area with their budget, and what the consumer expects, but at the same time, they're going to get more out of their games now because they're going to be investing more to make more. So I would really keep an eye on the AA space. They were already kind of pushing the boundaries and closing that gap. And I think with this generation, you can see something like Spiders, who's apparently revealing their next game this month.
Yeah.
Which is
awesome.
Surprising. We just got Greedfall in September, I think. So that is really cool. And I wonder if it's going to be... I doubt it's going to be a follow-up. It's got to be something else. And so
it was Greedfall though. If it was Greedfall 2, I'd be like, yeah.
I like the idea of an RPG studio that just keeps kind of going like new game, like new IP, just going series. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what they're doing. But these are my suggestion in response to all this would be to take a look at these types of companies, because I think you're going to see a lot of AAA follow suit. You're going to see the likes of like Square Enix say, all right, you can get PS4's Avengers for $60 or pay $70 and get the next gen version. Like, I think you're going to see a lot of that where people are just going to invest and get the update. Because that's what I don't understand. A lot of these games, let's take Avengers again. You can buy the PS4 version and then just get apparently the free update that upgrades it and takes advantage of next gen. So you're still spending $60 and then getting a free update, opposed to spending $70 and having it all there day one. Like, am I missing something?
You are.
Of all that?
You are. They did just clarify. You will not be This is why they have an issue with Microsoft in particular, who said things are forward and backwards compatible. They did just say, if you buy the game, you will not get the new version at all of these 2K games. And that caused a bunch of people, because Microsoft has stated you for sure will, like those. But then later they said, well, it's up to the company. These guys have stated yesterday, you will not be getting it. Also, by the way, Sean used shibboleth correctly, and I want to say congratulations. Most people don't know that word. When you read
Sounds
it,
like something from Elder Scrolls.
It just means a principle or like the idea or plan. But it's an old word. You rarely hear it. But Sean also was a big music. I don't know if you guys know, but he was like a big pusher of like Dreams and stuff like that, right? The more eclectic. What I'm worried about, Matty, is my bread and butter, man. I'm worried that voice actors and stuff will be the things that you would see not moving forward because they cost so much. And I could see some of these companies, like if there is a money problem in the smaller companies in particular, them still not, I don't want a Troy Baker and everything. That's like, no. But, Anthony and Gruber or somebody like that, I'm worried that we won't see that if like the financials aren't right with the smaller companies, because I don't think 2K is hurting for money. So it's a weird company to be raising the price.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Like if Spiders raised the price, I'd be like, okay. Even though I wouldn't like it because they wouldn't be as budget. But 2K is so weird. Those guys just got yachts for each nut. Like they don't. I mean, it's so odd for them to be the ones doing this.
Yeah. And especially when quite literally 2K20 was a casino in a lot of ways. That's not like
it was a
words.
Casino.
It really was. And so you can make the argument too, and I would totally agree that is this just a company overreaching with its greed, and we're not going to see the $60 price tag $70 price tag follow suit with a lot of companies. That kind of remains to be seen, but I think it's very interesting to look at. But I wouldn't be surprised if this is sustained because of mostly what Sean said with how much it costs to make a game, and it's just going up.
I think go ahead.
Not at all. Go for it.
I was going to say, as far as what you're saying, Karak, as far as like if 2K so far is the only one that we know of, and there are others that are considering keeping the price point, I think we're in a very not dangerous, but if they succeed at $69.99, then the stockholders are going to be knocking on everyone else's door and said, hey, they did it, and you have a duty to us to make that money. So we want your prices up, and it's just going to be a domino effect from there.
Probably.
So...
Man. And it's unfortunate because I have friends from Canada, so their game prices would go up to, I think, like 80 or something like that. I know Karak mentioned that, but like I can just also firsthand attest to like they were already paying a lot out of pocket, and they're going to be paying more. So for us here in like the U.S., it's $70. That's still a ton of money. That's one step closer to $100. But I think with our out of the United States friends, they're going to hurt the most from this. Like Australia already paid a shit ton, and that's only going to go up.
Right.
So
the kangaroo tax or whatever the fuck they pay. I have no clue why it's so expensive there.
Yeah, it's hard to keep the context of like gaming as a whole, because what we're talking about as far as these tippy top prices are like the premium day one tax or whatever you want to say. I'm sure that eventually, overall, I would still say it's still like cheaper than ever to be a gamer, to play games. If you can buy a budget PC or you can buy a used PS4 and you can play, other than the stuff from this year, you can play all of Sony's first party lineup and you might spend, $15 each or something. So it will be interesting to see how his effect on, new release and stuff like that. But
I don't know if you guys agree. Do you guys agree with this? But one of the people on my Discord was saying, when we mentioned in the podcast, he was like, well, it could allow an indie company a tiny bit more flexibility in their pricing so that they could appear really indie now by not raising their price. So if they were going to go for 30, they could stay at 30, and that's great. Or, it does give the indie a chance to maybe add $5 to it, which I'm not one of those people who holds indies up above others. I mean, I've met some shit developers for every company. So, But I don't know about you guys. It wasn't a positive, but it was like, it does offer them a little bit of flexibility for pricing. If one big company does it first, and they can sort of decide from there.
I guess it really depends how invested you are outside of the AAA space, because I think everyone outside of the AAA space benefits. I think indies become a lot more appealing because they just look... Their price tag was already charming, and it looks even better now because of everyone else going up to 70. Me spending, instead of 20, the standard price for an indie, spending 30 or 25 and getting something like Hollow Knight. I don't know if you could qualify Hollow Knight as like an indie, right? You would say?
Yeah.
All right, I just want to make sure. Getting something like that, which is a great game, a long game too, that's replayable.
Oh, true.
I just look at that and go, I think you're going to start to see a shift that way. And I think that's good because they can increase almost safely and be okay and still profit more and invest more and make better games. So it's a domino effect in that way as well. Of course, I really think you're going to see the reaction sort of that Dustin predicted of lots of AAAs just going up and being like, hey, well, you know what? You're working fine with what you got here, but we want more. I feel you're going to see a lot of that for sure.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think as far as what Sean was saying as far as the length of games? Because I feel like I agree with him completely. And I don't know if it's just because like now, especially that we're, the three of us are in the industry. So we're trying to play as much as possible. So when this November comes and there's 4 games that are 80 to 100 a piece, and then there's these 3 other ones that are also, maybe in the 30-hour range. Some of these games, especially after coming off Last of Us Part 2, that I'm just like, this game, you could have shaved off 10 hours. It still would have been worth $59.99 to me. Right. It would have saved you guys a ton of money, and it actually would have maybe made the game better. Now, maybe that doesn't apply to everything. Like, I think that a game like Cyberpunk, the total amount of content is a huge selling point for that studio. So I think it's a case-by-case basis. But what do you guys think as far as the idea of lowering the overall content of AAA games?
Go ahead, Matty. You can go first.
Yeah, it's funny. When I was listening to Sacred Symbols, they were talking, Colin and Chris were talking about this, and I was thinking, like, I couldn't even pick not a side, pick where I wanted to lay on this issue. I definitely lean more towards, if a developer wants to jam-pack their game full of content, and it is 80 hours, I just want that 80 hours to be worth it. Dustin, you and I know we both adore Persona 5 Royal, and I feel like that was the most respected I've ever been with 130 to 40 hours of my time in a video game. And if companies want to make their games that long and that impactful and just make every minute of it, and I'm not even exaggerating, really every minute of it worth my time, then I have no problem with games being that long, but I know those experiences are few and far between. I think the reality is that they should shorten some of them because there are situations. That's one common complaint I've heard about The Last of Us Part 2, is that it's a good game. It's just that the story would have benefited from it more if they just shaved off a number of hours. And we've seen that from a lot of games where there's padding or there's just fluff. And I would have no problem with that being removed, but I'm not one of those people who's outright calling for games to be knocked down in amount of content because, like you mentioned, Dustin, we're in the industry, so we're playing it all. And for us, sometimes we get free copies. I still try to pay for all my games when it's financially feasible, just to make sure my money's on the line. I got that from Karak. But at the same time, for us, it's a little easier to digest like an 80-hour experience. Say, you know what, I don't really like this, and move on from it when someone's spending $60, $70 maybe now, on something that you're going to want as much time out of it. I know when I was in high school, that was the best feeling. When I spent $60, I loved Arkham City. It was one of my favorite superhero games ever.
Adore
I love
that
the
game,
story.
man.
But yeah, I blazed through that game in like a week. And
Right.
like I was going to school at that time. And so as just a critic and someone who's like grown through the industry, I appreciate everything that game does. But as a 15, 16-year-old kid, like I was kind of disappointed how quickly I blazed through that story. So I try to, and not everyone who's listening is going to be that age range, but I know people still value. I can only buy 2 games, 3 games, maybe even 1 game a year. I understand the demand for content, so I think companies should just push for how much they put in a game, always, but they need to push for filters more too. There's no excuse to be throwing in, hey, Dragon Age Inquisition side quests. The power system could have worked if you made some side quest lines a little more thoughtful and lowered the power count. Like that could have been tweaked to be more enjoyable, but they were just thinking quantity, give them more. And it's like, that's not always good. You can strike a balance, and instead of making an 80-hour game, you can make like a 60-hour game that respects my time. I feel like when a game doesn't respect your time, like I'm not going to give it my time at this point, because you're just wasting my life, if I'm honest. So that's kind of where I stand on it in a long-winded reply.
Yeah, I would agree with all that. I think the one thing we're seeing, you have Dane interpolation for like FPS. You have Microsoft, who has a studio that's there just using AI to increase resolution. You have companies working on AI for quests. Voiceover that's going to AI. I do feel that some companies are going to hinge on something which I'm worried about, which is like the dynamic quests in Skyrim, the Radiant.
Yeah.
So I told you, Matty, I admit I was dumb when I first played Skyrim and got a Radiant quest. Because of how it's delivered, I thought it was real, and I was like, "Holy shit!"
We all did.
Right?
All did,
okay. So I don't feel as dumb, but I was like, "Dude, this game's this is the biggest game ever made. What the fuck?" And then I figured out, okay, it was using these various systems and tables. That wasn't even AI. That was a table structure. We're looking at all of these things. I think some companies will go towards that. I'm actually doing an app that's using AI voice, and I got to say it's really close to real. I think we will see companies hedging on proper resource. I think right now there's some cost things that fans don't understand. Like you'll see a fan say this texture is reused. First of all, good. You don't know anything about development if you don't realize that an occasional texture being reused is a fantastic idea. Also, if you have an M16 that sounds perfect, use the M16 sound in the other game. You're still using the engine sounds that will adjust it in your processing. So there's some stuff there. Of course, we don't want a game that's just rehashed, but I think you'll see some power or some saving in that way from some of these companies. But overall, the length of games, I don't want to get on Last of Us, but like you do look at some of these that are pretty long. I think I would assume he is talking about that game. That's the honest truth. I fully actually believe that was one of the games he was indicating in the review or in the article.
Right.
I think we will see some of these companies pull back and be like, what can we offer? It's just going to depend on each company too. That's why I tell people when somebody says, well, this company's doing this, so when this other company does something slightly like it, it's identical. And it's like, no, dude, you have no clue how that works. You and I have come up with games where we both say it's worth getting, but we have dramatically different like reasons for it. And that's just reviewing something that we didn't make. We both just bought it. So obviously making is going to be a dramatically more dynamic, structure for everybody involved. And I think that that's the one thing fans could do is be like, don't attack every single company that's doing something slightly different. Or you hear that they've got a big game. It doesn't mean it's bad. Cyberpunk isn't the only good developer out there either. You guys need to get off their jock because that shit's just getting tiring. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm mad. I'm like, dude, seriously, they're going to screw somebody over. It's going to be the end of the world. But
yeah, people's worlds are going to fall apart if that day ever comes.
Oh yeah. Also, I got to hand it to the people who go to LinkedIn. They like every time somebody says this developer went to this company, I'm like, that really doesn't mean anything. But with Dragon Age Inquisition, we joked about this. 2 MMO developers went and helped on Dragon Age Inquisition, hence the hinterlands being an MMO style world and poor quest design because they were MMO developers.
Everything about that game is an MMO.
It's a single player MMO. I could jump in your game and you wouldn't even know I wasn't the AI. You'd just be like, that's the AI. Maybe he aims a little better.
That game is buggier, by the way. Not to interrupt your path of thought, but that game is buggier than I ever recalled.
Really?
I'm playing on the PS4, so maybe that's part of the reason why, because it was easier for me to stream and it was $8.
Interesting.
But yeah,
Damn.
man, like I'll have my party like in front of me. I will be fighting AI and they'll just run in circles. Like sometimes quest bug. Like it's weird. I'm thinking to myself, I thought this game was, even when I played it, that was not one of my complaints. Bugs, certainly not. So I was kind of surprised going back to it that it wasn't running that well.
That's too bad, especially because you probably DLC. You said right, so you would be getting all the patches plus the DLC patches.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
something to watch out for.
Only reason I'm sticking with it is everyone's telling me that Trespasser is apparently like amazing. Apparently really good.
Oh, the DLC Trespasser. I get what you're saying. By the way, I've heard the same thing. Yeah, that it is awesome.
A lot of people say it's good. And I believe it. BioWare's done really good with DLC, and I imagine that's where they can just go, because it's a short, contained story. They can just go in on that, and I'm sure it is really good. That's why I'm sticking with it, because I believe it'll give me a glimmer of hope for Dragon Age 4. All right, gentlemen. Great talk on that. Let's move on to the Xbox Series X. So there's been a rumor of when it will be revealed. We know that their event, Microsoft being there, is happening sometime this month, and it appears that there's been a bit of a scoop once again over at VentureBeat, making a name for themselves here. So, despite the Xbox, despite launching, God, I can't read today, Xbox 2020 as a monthly event leading up to the launch of the Xbox Series X, Microsoft chose not to host a stream in June. Instead, it redirected its efforts toward its July showing, where we know it'll focus on revealing first-party Xbox Series X games. Microsoft has avoided sharing any kind of date for the event so far, but it's now been reported that it will take place on July 23rd. VentureBeat reporter Jeff Grubb first mentioned the date before Video Game Chronicle corroborated his report with its own source. The event, while still subject to having its... my phone locked up. Okay, there we go. The event, while still having subject to having its date changed, will showcase first looks at numerous first-party titles in development for the Series X, with Halo Infinite leading the charge, games from Forza Horizon developer Playground Games, and the new Studio Initiative are also expected to be shown. And this touches nothing about Obsidian, which I imagine we'll see more of at their event too. But anyway, gentlemen, apologies for my phone locking up there, but July 23rd is the supposed date for the Xbox Series X reveal event. Let's go over just general expectations, what we hope to see, and of course what you think about a date like that. Does it sound plausible? Dustin, we'll start off with you, man.
Well, I think that date sounds about right. We've been here in July for a while, so I mean, I'm surprised that they're kind of giving this much air between their third-party thing. I almost feel like if I was them, I would want to do something in order to try to have people forget about that. Since a lot of not that the whole event was terrible, but just that I feel like now, especially, people are like, anytime you mention that, people are like, yeah, that was really bad. So, but yeah, I feel like what's happening right now is exciting, because it was, for a long time, it was all eyes on Sony to see what they were going to do. And I think that the way they differentiated themselves was really good for them, and the fact that Microsoft has been leading this charge that almost feels like very much in the fact that it's like all your old stuff is coming with you, and the stuff they've shown off seems that it's going to be the exact same interface from the Xbox One, and almost like it's going to be everything you know before, but better. And it's going to be able to be, it's very consumer friendly in the way that it lets you bring all of your old stuff over. Whereas Sony, on the other hand, was like, this is what's next for gaming. This is completely a whole new step, and unlike what we've done with PS4. So I guess it'll be interesting now to see if Microsoft kind of doubles down on this idea of the unified Xbox platform, or if they're going to try to say, hey, Series X, this is, unlike anything you've seen before. Here's why.
So,
I think July makes sense because from what we've heard the games weren't ready to be shown. So July, pushing it back, technically they pushed it back a month, is, to me, makes sense. You got a full month of testing, which is awesome for your developers. When it comes to like expectations, since the economy looks to be busted beyond belief, I would expect them to double down on value. I would also expect them to do a lot of side-by-sides. So they'll probably be the Xbox X. Here's what you'll get with Halo and Infinite, but here's what it looks like on the Series X. But guess what? You actually have both versions if you upgrade. That kind of stuff. It's pretty easy to put all that together. Value. Yeah. But still, doing the focus of you don't need to upgrade, And since we know it's only a year out for them with, doing the one family thing, I think for them it makes sense because most exclusives for Sony, some are coming, but some were way out. And then, of course, if you just look at typical development, some will be delayed even farther. So it's like, what are they fighting against? They're fighting against the economy, your money, a competitor, all this stuff. I think what they've done is differentiated themselves as value. And then I told you, and you saw me, I said it in your Discord, because somebody was like, I want to see their, what are they doing for first party stuff? And I'm like, I don't really think they'll show you stuff, but I don't think that they're concentrating on that. The economy everywhere is destroyed. It's destroyed if you follow, because that's what I follow. And I'm telling you right now, it's destroyed. So for them to be like, we'll show you this awesome stuff, but if you don't want to get it, you don't have to. And I think that works for Microsoft. Game Pass is ridiculous. We just saw the Descendant. Did you see their interview? They're a company that released a downhill bike racing game called Descent or Descending.
It's a Dissenters or Dissenter, something like that. Yeah.
Game Pass 6 times the sales by being on Game Pass, which once again flies in the. Yeah, dude, I don't even want to.
That's too funny.
It doesn't make sense. It does, but it doesn't. But
it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. But every developer I've talked to has stated the same thing: is that like Game Pass and all this stuff. So I have a feeling Microsoft is just like, here's your deals. You're not going to have to pay full price because we already know they have a full subscription to the Xbox X if you want to do the series. I don't expect anything other than Fable 4 as a title screen as well. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Honestly, Matty, they should have done that last time. I don't care what they show at these events because I buy what I'm going to get. But I do see why, Dustin's like, popularity-wise, you do want people talking, obviously. I think Fable 4, just like, boom, Fable 4 is... that'd work for a lot of people because a lot of people want a Fable.
As someone who's been talking about it since it leaked,
right?
When was that?
True.
2018 or
something? Long time ago.
I've been on this shit forever, and I'm just like, all right, I'm getting to that point where like this month has to be it. If it's not it, people are going to be really deflated. That's just putting it lightly.
It's time, right?
It really is, though, especially because it's been leaked. I respect them taking their time. I understand revealing ahead of time can really hurt a game. But I also really think that this is the type of game that they need to get out there as soon as possible, because what's happening is there's more and more people talking about it. Like they found a Twitter account, even though Microsoft came out and was like, oh, we do this all the time, give me a break. Because there was also Perfect Dark, which has been leaked a million times since like the beginning of this year. But between that, trademarks, Fable 4 on Mixer before last year's E3.
Right,
they've been fucking setting up to reveal this thing for like every event. And I'm like, just do it. Just do it. I think when we do see it, the reason they're holding back is they probably recognize the demand. And when we do see it, I think they're going to show a lot more than we expect. Because that would be the surprise. I'm like you. I'm expecting cinematic trailer or title screen or just words. I'm just expecting that coming next year. But I would really like if they came out with like a 2-minute gameplay trailer.
Oh,
and
dude,
and just really showed like a panning worldview, some gameplay snippets, a little bit of the story. Like they just made one of those trailers, man. I'll lose my mind. I'm not gonna act like I'm a diehard Fable fan. I love Fable, but like I played a shit ton of 2, man. And if this thing is like anything close to 2 in the sense of like morality, freedom, I'm all about it. Right. Because the rumors have been exciting for the game. And I think people just want to have, like, because some have been confirmed, some have been unconfirmed, or not even confirmed, but like some have been corroborated, some haven't been. And so people are just like, what is this game? We just need answers. So yeah, for the Series X reveal, I'm just looking for Fable and whatever Obsidian's doing, because they're definitely going to be there. I wonder how much Microsoft's going to announce stuff ahead of time, because they have like a lot of great studios that they recently acquired, like In Exile's one, but they're releasing Wasteland 3 next month. That was supposed to be out back in May.
Which, by the way, have you guys played the beta? Either one of you?
I played it at PAX.
I don't know what the PAX build was versus what I played.
It was like in the wintry level.
Yeah, dude, okay. I liked what I played. So like,
yeah.
That one that's sort of like a weird wild card for me because I was not expecting to like that. But what I played was ace. So that'll be cool.
Yeah, that game is one that's unnecessarily off a lot of people's radar. Because the thing is that as someone who's covered a lot of Bethesda in my history, I see a lot of people shitting on Fallout, but I don't see enough people going to like the next post-apocalyptic thing that'll hook you in.
Right. It's a good point.
Wasteland is absolutely that. Wasteland literally gave birth to Fallout. So like go to 3, which is like the highest budgeted Wasteland title. They have like full cutscenes. The gameplay is great. Tons of choices. They made a whole trailer just talking about and showing choice, and I was like,
crazy.
Jesus, it's insane. That game looks great. Is there any other games that are on your guys' radar for the Xbox Series X reveal event that do you guys think they're going to take the PlayStation route, where PlayStation obviously had the likes of Spider-Man and Ratchet and Clank? They had their main IP, but they also had just a bunch of like game reveals tied in there to increase the hype, we'll say.
Yeah, I mean, I feel it's so interesting. I feel like it's a weird mix of, depending on who you talk to, whether it's like pure hype or like skepticism, especially because I feel like they're pushing so far into Halo Infinite. Like they already did that big teaser. They've already teased the game twice on stage.
Yeah.
And I don't know, for me, I like want to be excited because I grew up with Halo, but I feel like Microsoft has only, I guess it's more 343 that they haven't been able to really succeed in that franchise, just since you look at 5 and you look at the Master Chief Collection, which is of course now in a pretty good state, and the PC version people seem to be pretty positive on. But the other thing, Maddie, it's interesting because I'm thinking about Fable too, because I really liked the first Fable, played some of the second one, and then I just heard that the third one was not good at all.
Third one got wrecked by
loading
screens.
It was wrecked.
Imagine a game, Dustin, where you open your inventory menu and you have to load.
Yeah.
So
it's a good idea, but it was definitely like a next gen idea in the sense of like going into an interactive hub to like manage your character. It's just weird.
So it's interesting just to me because like all these rumors, to me, I'm like, that sounds exciting. Last one was terrible. Hopefully they prove us wrong. Because like Perfect Dark even too. Like we haven't seen Perfect Dark since the Perfect Dark Zero, which was a launch game for 360. I remember getting that game, and it was I think I was in junior high whenever that era happened. 2006. I would have been in 6th grade. So that was the first game I got for 360, and it was one of those games where you're like, this is great. I love this. So you're like telling your parents because they helped you pay for it. And inside you're like, this is no good. This is bad.
Really? Oh no.
So,
I don't remember which one I played. They had a Perfect Dark. They had multiple, I think, but on Rare Replay.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And I think I might have played the one on the 360. And I remember enjoying it. I don't know. But like that was so long ago. That was 2014. Rare Replay is still so much bang for your buck nowadays. I still recommend people look into it.
Yeah, Rare Replay is pretty crazy, isn't it?
It is, man. What's even crazier isn't that's probably available on Game Pass, yeah?
Yes, it is actually. I think Reg was talking about that, which is like, isn't that weird? Because it's sort of a thing inside of a thing, you know.
You really download a game to get 30 games.
Yeah. I will. You know what pissed me off about Rare Replay, Maddie, is I got it and it did require. It's just a front end, so it does require you download those games. And of course, I should have known that. I'm a tech head. Like, of course, I would have known they're not all on that fucking Blu-ray. Like, what?
I was disappointed too, though.
But I was disappointed. Yeah, I was like, oh, I got to download all these. Viva Pinata was worth it. I do think that, there's a rumor. There's a pretty big rumor of like one game that no one's announced yet, and we'll see if that's true or not. But I think with Microsoft, I don't know. I would have to say I disagree with you, Maddie, on the Obsidian. The only reason I say this, and what I'm saying is disagree, is I just don't think they'll be there. And the reason why I say that is because Phil keeps talking about now, right? Like it has to be within a small amount of time. He got burned really bad by announcing stuff that was a year out. And what I mean, even the Ant game, which, by the way, people seem to like, the Obsidian
That game
Ant
is
game.
fucking awesome.
Okay, so let's
like it.
pause this entire conversation. Can you give me like 2 minutes on that game? Because a bunch of people have told me this is awesome. So what is it, and why is it awesome?
It's the universe. I just think that's what it is. Because, well, number one, the music, the soundtrack kicks ass. It just creates like a vibe for the game. And then the way that the
what's it called? So people listening know. It's
Grounded.
Grounded. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Continue.
And so the music really sets the stage out, because that immediately just it catches a vibe. And then once you walk out, the first thing you see when you walk out of this pathway is like a giant baseball to your left, and it just kind of creates this scale for the world. You're
Gotcha.
like, okay, like I remember seeing this in the trailer. You walk through a little bit more, and I think it was like a battery, but you had to interact with the battery in this unique way that only you could at this tiny size. And so I think it's the way it captures the universe. In the scheme of things, it is that survival-esque game that you've seen before. You grab resources, you go to this thing called like an analyzer, you put it in a scanner, and you find out what all these materials can do. I think it's a good streamlined way of doing it, because you don't have to just like, you know, in some survival games you just throw shit together and you're like, oh, now I know I can make a stick with a rock attached to it, because I combine those two items. Like, it's just you scan the item and it gives you like a list of recipes. So I think that's good. If you like leave the game for a while and come back, you can immediately look and know what everything does without having to memorize it all. But ultimately, yeah, it's just the universe. There wasn't anything I did with the main story, but it just, to me, it gave me that good feeling of like, I could totally see myself getting hooked to this game with a couple of friends and just really getting involved in like building our own space. One thing I will touch on to conclude is the enemies. They actually give you an arachnophobia warning in the beginning, because you're tiny and you fight these huge friggin' spiders, which are really normal sized spiders, but because you're shrunken down, they're like the most terrifying creatures. And so I like crawl around and I'm looking for I forgot what I was looking for. But anyway, I crawl into this little nest and I find like a ton of giant spiders. So I like sprint out of this cave and I'm being chased by them, and it created a cool dynamic moment too. So there was a lot there to like in that short demo period.
Okay.
Anyway,
that's good to know.
Elevator pitch.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to know. I hadn't got a chance to see it, but anyway, so that's I just don't. Yeah, I would like to see them show something. I just, for whatever reason, feel like there's a good chance.
Yeah, and you have a good chance of being right, because like I've heard things that like, oh, they're supposed to be there, but it could mean that they're supposed to be there to show off like the Outer Worlds expansion that they announced back in December.
Yeah, right.
That they still haven't, which is, that's the thing, is the longer they wait, the higher the expectation of like, this has to be big, this has to be good. That's what starts to get like lopped on top of them. So hopefully they are prepared for that and they do show off something worthwhile. It's just one of those things where people have been really patient with it, and they better be careful, because you know, people might start to just forget. A lot of people probably already have forgotten, but with Game Pass it could become relevant pretty quickly. But yeah, man, you might be right. You know, there's a good chance that you don't see that new IP of theirs there. The reason I brought up the possibility too, and I mentioned In Exile, is because I think, that was my original question, is do you think Microsoft's going to try to set the stage and sort of say like, all right, you know, we showed you a ton of acquisitions we made. I know they're definitely going to announce more acquisitions at this showcase, but here's what like our previous acquisitions are now working on, to kind of get people to know there's like a now and there's a future. Do you think like that might be something they look into?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it could be. I don't know.
They're like in the situation where they could get away with it, I feel, because we know like Halo, as Dustin said, we know there's going to be like a Forza, that's stuff that you can probably expect, but they need to build beyond that. And if Microsoft doesn't recognize that, they might be in trouble, because like it's not the 360 where it's Gears, Halo, Forza. Like they need to go to the next step here. Like you have Ori's great, but like that's not your blockbuster. They need more than that.
Yeah, I don't know. I do feel that if Ori was Sony, the reaction would be 10 times different, because people have such a hard on. And they just do.
Of course.
And because Ori is that mystery game for me, where it succeeds in every single thing that should be talked about in the industry wide. And it's not. And I feel that it's not because of that. Almost like a preconceived thing for Microsoft.
Either that or it's an Xbox thing, because like there was a ton of hype for when Ori was coming to Switch. That was like a huge deal.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, that's what I meant.
That's what you meant?
Yeah, okay. Overall, just, you're absolutely
okay,
Xbox and Microsoft versus like Nintendo, like you said, because it was a big deal. I forgot. Yeah, with Switch.
Same thing with Cuphead. When Cuphead was hype, but like Cuphead left and went to Switch, and people went, "This is perfect," and it does seem like a good fit for the platform, but still, man, it's one of those situations where you're like,
yeah, it just makes you sort of sit back and go, "Why is this happening? Like, why is this reaction the way it is?"
Yeah,
you got to wonder about that Cuphead DLC too.
Mm-hmm.
That was announced so long ago. Now you got to wonder if they're just making a Cuphead 2 out of it.
That's what I just heard, actually. Somebody just posted that a couple days ago, and they were like, "Did the Cuphead DLC just turn into number 2?"
Well,
they're making a show.
Yeah. The weird part is they were always clear that like Microsoft owns the console rights to the first one, I think it was, but not necessarily. They don't own Cuphead as an IP, so I'm wondering since this game maybe began production as DLC, and maybe it still will be DLC, but you got to wonder, especially now, Cuphead is so much bigger of a property now. Like Matty, you said, the TV show, there is Cuphead toys at every toy store, every Walmart, every Target. Like my little cousins run up to me and they have Cuphead stuff. Like it's everywhere. So you're going to want to imagine they're hoping that they can get, again, we don't know what the contract is, but I'm betting that they're going to want that on as many platforms as possible if they're making a second one.
Yeah.
But
I feel like that would be the natural segue instead of doing an expansion. I could totally see that being a thing where they go, okay, we're going to add a couple more bosses. It's going to be Cuphead and I forgot his partner's name.
Mugman.
Bugman?
Mugman.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we're gonna. I actually haven't played the game at all. So
dude, you have to play it. It's great.
I know. I played the demo and I really liked it at E3 2016. I want to say it was a great game. It's just more so. I remember when my friend was playing it, he was telling me how much he was like yelling at it because he was getting like frustrated. And I was at a period of time where I was not looking for like I put this in quotes, a Souls experience, like raging but feeling that accomplishment afterwards. But yeah, man, I Cuphead is one that I think they're going to just expand upon because, as I said, I feel like they could throw a bunch of bosses in and go like, okay, we'll add like a new different type of dash mechanic or some type of bunny hop mechanic and that's it. But then they're like, well, we could do this. We could do this and this. And they're like, let's just make a new game.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like that's how it's going to happen. So I could totally see that going that route. But we'll have some more answers July 23rd, it seems. Only 20 days from the day we record this. All right. Let's go ahead and move on to the next bit of news. We were talking a bit about a Cuphead show. Fallout's getting a TV show. It's on Amazon Prime. It is by the creators of Westworld. It was a surprise announcement. It came with a teaser over on Twitter. It drummed up a lot more excitement than I expected. I thought I was going to be alone on that. I was really excited. But everyone was like, oh, this is perfect. I went, wow. I'm very impressed that like most are on board, especially after Fallout 76 was the latest entry in the series, which, it gained a lot of goodwill with Wastelanders, and I think they were smart to hold back on the TV announcement until after Wastelanders and the dust of that had settled. But I made a whole video on this, gentlemen. I'll have more thoughts, but, I want to pass it off to you guys. What do you make of a Fallout TV show? Are you excited? Are you surprised? Go crazy. Whichever one of you wants to go first. All right, it's Dustin. Dustin's first.
I was trying to figure out what I thought about this because I feel like it's such in a way, if you think about it, a strange announcement because with the two creators, that's a husband and wife duo, right?
It is.
That's what I thought. So you have them coming from Westworld and Jonathan Nolan obviously writing like some of the crazy Nolan scripts and stuff. And Westworld, and I know people might loudly hate me in the comments for this, but I feel like that show got so pretentious and confusing in the second season that I just kind of like turned it off because it was so all over the place in a lot of ways. So it's interesting for me to see this real kind of highbrow sci-fi duo move over to Fallout, which I was talking to my wife about this. I'm like, Fallout is like a cartoon to me. Like it is silly and weird. And that's what I really like about it. And I think they even mentioned in one of the press releases how they're trying to stick to that B movie style. So it was a bit of a weird matchup for me to see those two attached to this project. But I am excited, I guess, to see, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't be, but Amazon, someone with a lot of money involved, of course, I think. When you have, the three elements, a huge franchise like Fallout, that duo, which is hot right now because of Westworld, and you have lots of money from Amazon. Hopefully, that's a recipe for something cool. But yeah, I mean, I'm willing to try it out. It seems like that's something that could work as long as they don't try to like retell a game. I think then they're golden. There's so many different, aspects of the Fallout universe that they could really do whatever they want. So that's my take. I'm excited. I think it'll be cool. Hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know them from Westworld as much, and I would agree with Westworld. I thought Westworld was sort of pretentious day one, but I still watched the first season a little bit more. But I know him from Person of Interest, which is probably one of the best television shows ever made. And
underrated show too. I think.
Yeah, technically probably underrated. Yeah, because every time I mention it, somebody's like, "I think I've seen that."
Right.
But here, my hope, and I said this in your Discord, Matty, is my hope is that they do the Jericho thing where it's about a community. It's not like it's not Book of Eli. It's like here's a community because we've already got Book of Eli every time we play the games. We've got one guy or one girl running around. And I think they can do a good job with that. I was saying that it's Amazon, which Amazon greenlights reverse than everybody else. So what that means is they basically greenlit nothing, and it doesn't mean it's coming. And so that's one thing people need to remember is Amazon does it differently than everybody else. Does that mean it won't come? No, I'm just saying we don't know because you also have Lord of the Rings, which is 100 million per episode, right? Isn't that what they said? It's the largest per episode of all time.
Shit ton of money.
It's beyond belief. It's beyond belief. Like the number came out, and I remember we were like, "That's not possible." It could be 10 million, but I'm pretty sure it was like 100. It was ridiculous because I think it was $1 billion.
Absurd
total.
Number.
Yeah. So hopefully that works well and all this moves forward. But I think they're good writers, and I think they could probably do something. I think the B movie is perfectly apt, and that's what we should go for with this show because that fits 1950s, right? Aesthetic, 1960s, 1950s, 40s, right? 1940s,
50s, yeah.
The only thing, I mean, in all honesty, man, I was a big fan of Jericho, which I brought up in your Discord, which was a post-apocalyptic TV show. It only ran for 2 seasons, but I'm all for a post-apocalyptic TV show. So I would watch 10. That's just my thing.
Yeah.
And Fallout, I think, works perfect. Also, I personally believe the reason why this isn't surprising to me is because Fallout 76 was a game with no story until recently. This show seems like this is where some of the story could go, and we could see maybe some of the...
As in, like, a cast of characters?
As in a cast of characters, yeah. And something to grab you for Fallout. I do think it's amazing that we're getting it after 76, though. I mean, nothing to diss on 76 because it's dramatically improved, but it is a little surprising timing-wise.
Yeah, I've been wondering how they're going to handle delivering the story because part of the allure of Fallout is being able to, even in the old games like Fallout 1 and 2, is being able to explore and like go into buildings and talk to people, whoever you want, in these various locations that have been reformed after nuclear bombs have destroyed what is America. And you don't have that interactive exploration that the games really thrive off of. So you need a really good story. And like Karak said, this was the biggest point I feel you made in our Discord when we were all talking about it, is that lacking of a cast of characters. The show has never been about, one game you're the Vault Dweller, one game you are the sole survivor. Like you're always this, this nameless entity that you insert yourself into. And so I just wonder how you're going to take that, what the game has been built off of since its very birth. Even like Fallout 4 and 76, you still insert yourself in some extent into the character. How exactly you transform that and make it not this generic post-apocalyptic story. And I was wondering if they're going to go back and forth between the pre-war, where before the bombs had fallen, and then to like a current setting. Good. At the same time, you wonder, are they going to stick it in one state? Because one of the things with Fallout is it's lacked expanded material. But what excites me most about this is if the show does well, if people like the show, maybe finally we will see books and comics, something I have been a huge advocate of, because I think because there's so many places you can go in the Fallout universe that are very interesting, and I'd love to explore that. But it's not feasible, especially with just Bethesda Game Studios, unless they start outsourcing it. It's not feasible to say, I'll finally see New Orleans and Chicago, like Florida, like those are like 3 on the map. We see mods with some of these locations, but those aren't an official means of producing a story. So for Fallout, I look forward to seeing where they set it, when they set it, because I don't know if it'll be after Fallout 4. Because if you set it earlier in the timeline, you get closer to 76. So there's a bit of a cramped nature there. I think 3 and 4 are 10 years apart or something like that. And there might be a bigger gap between 2 and 3. So it's going to be interesting to see where they set it. Do they even try to associate it with the games? That was my only concern, is the press release was very much that, just a press release. It wasn't like taking place during 2277 or something like that. It's just like, yep, we're making a Fallout show. That's it.
I gotta ask you guys something. There was a rumor of what's his name? The guy who does the voiceover, Sons of Anarchy dude.
Oh, Ron Perlman.
Ron Perlman. There was some rumors about Ron Perlman and Liam Neeson working together, and this was about 3 years ago. And I was telling a friend, I was like, imagine the show starts out with one of those fuckers, just even the first episode, or because we do know, like Ron Perlman, we don't know his character, right? He's not a character. He's just the narrator.
He's just the narrator.
Can you imagine? Can you fucking,
I didn't even think of that.
Can you imagine? Because Ron Perlman's a leading man. He may look all busted up. I love the dude, but even he jokes about it. He's not a leading man in looks, but that dude's got some grab, a fucking toss. Can you imagine him and Liam Neeson showing up in the first episode? Because it's Amazon. Amazon can throw whatever amounts of money they want at something. But yeah. I would die inside. Also, I would love to see them matching together story elements. Imagine the first episode talking about a town being nuked later, and it's you find out that's your actions in Fallout 3. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one thing that games and movies have a big problem. Cool. And games and movies and TV shows have a big problem. They usually don't reference each other. And to me, Fallout is a reference. Fallout is a reference in a reference already. In the 1950s, purchasing everything, all of the consumerism. Imagine, like, allowing all of us who've blown up a town, who've, found our father, all this kind of stuff, somehow referenced in. And I think Nolan would do it. Nolan doesn't seem to be one to not, like, say, okay, fuck, yeah, that's what we'll do.
Yeah, I know a lot of people said that a lot of elements from Westworld, the sci-fi stuff within it, is very reminiscent of the Institute in Fallout 4. So people have told me in the past, before any of this was even I didn't even see a rumor for this, but before it was ever discussed, that there was a DNA there, a sense of familiarity. And so whether it's intentional or not, I don't know if they played the game and some of that just carried over, if they just had similar, they were parallel in their ideas. But knowing that they were able to capture something that stoked a lot of Fallout fans and that people would come directly to me and be like, go try this show because it's something you would dig due to its kind of how much it is connected to Fallout 4 in a number of ways. I think that it stands a good shot of being good. It's really not my worry about it being good or bad. It's just about how they will do it.
Yeah, what will it be?
Like, I just look at Netflix Witcher, right? Like, you instantly saw they were doing the show, and you're like, okay, Geralt will be there. Like, right away. Geralt will be there. Ciri's got to be involved somehow. Like, there's a general cast of characters. Even the Mugman, or the Cuphead show, it's going to be Cuphead and Mugman. Like, the people who will be there. With Fallout, there, I have no clue. Do you establishing, like, this canon actual human like John as the main character of the show, I don't know how Fallout fans will connect with that, but I think the idea is to maybe branch away from that a little bit. And I just wonder if it indicates that more Fallout's on the way quicker than we expect. Just because for them to do a show during 76, I thought 76 was just the thing they ride out, right? Because it's a games as a service. And they're trying to keep it alive as long as possible. They just released a huge update for it with like a roadmap that's apparently actually pretty good. Just how you get things doesn't work as well. But apparently overall it's really solid content. And so with 76 getting some legs, you're doing a show now. I just wonder if they're also considering doing a new game or re-releasing old games like people have wanted for fucking ever. So, it's just, it surprised me in the sense that it's more up in the air with that IP than I had expected. I thought, and maybe it's just my own fault, I just thought it was dead until Starfield at least. Like I thought they were just like, all right, 76 is it, and then we'll talk after Starfield. But
also remember, Amazon takes all the financial brunt of this. Like it's awesome. All Bethesda has to do is be open to them and say, we'll give you whatever you need information-wise to make your story. If that succeeds, Fallout games sell more. That's just the way it works. Like, and you guys were talking about toys. I mean, they're comic books. Brian Edward Hill, who's been on the podcast a bunch of times, he does comic books for side stuff a lot, and I have never asked him about Fallout. I'm going to. I'm literally getting ready to DM and go, have you ever thought about, because he's a gamer. He's a huge video gamer. And it's like, if he did Kung Fu or Hong Kong Phooey, which is an old cartoon from the 1970s, why, and he's a Fallout fan, why has he not done Fallout? Like, of all the things, see where that is. Because you're right, there are no books. There's fucking comics for Firefly, and that went for like 3/4 of a season. So why is there no comics for Fallout? I didn't even know there was none.
There's like one from Dark Horse that I think was during New Vegas.
What a perfect world.
It's like one issue. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. It is
weird.
Ripe. At least like books. Halo has fucking books.
Assassin's Creed. Bro, I just bought like 19 Assassin's Creed books. So yeah.
That's what I'm saying, man. There's just
that's awesome.
A lot of room there.
Now I'm excited for this. Hopefully, man. Because
you could just literally sell a book. I'll go back to my same locations. Fallout Chicago, the book. Like, it's just, it blows my mind. I give them props for not, like, milking it dry, but I just think they're, like, when that IP took off really with, like, 3, but more so with 4 on, like, a wider stage, I don't know why this wasn't the first thought. Like, let's get a show, let's get some books, like, let's just all out. Instead, they did, like, collectibles and shit, and, I have a bunch of them, but, that was a younger Matty.
How many years, Matty, after the Fallout is the first game? Not the first Fallout game. I mean, in the timeline, when is the first time you experience any game material after the nukes drop?
So you're saying like the nukes drop, when's the first
time you get to play in any of these games, date-wise? Ooh. Is it 150 years? Is it...
Ooh, let me check real quick.
Imagine a Walking Dead starting where like these characters like, Asian guys on a plane, fuck businessman, and then the nukes drop and then it's like they're kids or something. I'm trying to figure out, because you have radiation to worry about, like how close are they going to go? How are they going to handle the special effects? Will like, what are the bug dudes? Murlocs? Mermen? What the fuck? The bug... oh I can't believe I don't know the name of this. But you know who I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. But, like, how are they going to handle those? This is all super interesting stuff. And Amazon's got the chops for some pretty cool special effects as well. So
it'll be interesting, too, Matty, while you look that up, just because we've seen, obviously, a million adaptations of video games onto TV or film. And it's like... It's such a tightrope because gamers are so much like, you need to make it like the game that I like, but also don't make it like the game. Don't make it exactly like the game. So, and that's what I was wondering with it being that B-movie style. I'm like, how do you walk that line of like, okay, this is supposed to be fun and stupid, but it's serious also, and it's not cheesy. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a, for Fallout in particular, I feel like, because it's like, yeah, when you're playing a video game and you put a teddy bear in a gun and blast a mutant in the face with it, it's awesome. But if you do that on, a TV show, is that going to be like stupid? You know what I mean?
Well, they could do it like Evil Dead, where Evil Dead does not have humor in the world. It's humor with him, Ash. So maybe they do it that way, and they're like, because that's why I think a communal thing, dude, would be so good instead of one person, like a community, because then you can have the goofy dude, the goofy guy who's like doing shit like that, but you also have the more serious stuff if you want it, and then you sort of see how players like it. Have you watched our Altered Carbon?
I watched the first episode of that, but I did not watch the whole thing. Yeah,
because you just hit the nail on the head with Altered Carbon. As somebody who's a huge fan of those series. You get those books, you get the series and you're like, because it's people but you wanted more, but it's like also they adjust the people which is a huge deal too.
So, not to interrupt you, sorry.
No, go for it.
I have the answer to your question. I'm going to read a little clip from IGN. because I was going through the timeline on the Fallout wiki, but they just had it year by year because so much happens in the Fallout universe, like literally every year through the 2000s. So I found this article from IGN. My assumption was correct that it was 76. That is the earliest that you actually get to play after the bombs drop. It says Vault 76 was scheduled to automatically open in 2097, 20 years after it would have closed. But the Pip-Boy in 76's teaser trailer has a date of October 27th, 2102. That's 5 years later and almost exactly 25 years after the Great War actually starts on October 23rd, 2077. For context, that is the earliest setting for a Fallout game by nearly 60 years. And then I know Wastelanders moves it up a year because the idea is they move it up a year, and in that year, people have moved into the Wasteland itself.
So I have a feeling then no matter what, we will get like a little bit of a Book of Eli thing, because I think, most atomic weapons now, especially some of the salted that they use, Russia uses a particular nuclear weapon that's just devastating. And I think it's like 150 years minimum before the radiation goes away, where ours are a little bit more normal. I don't know about you guys. I'm not a big fan of watching people degenerate in front of me. So I'm hoping we don't have to see a lot of like mutants as in the people. Does that make sense? The normal people. I would like to see a community that is dealing with that versus dealing with outside threats versus like a bunch of people who are affected by radiation and stuff. I don't know why. Maybe it's too depressing right now for me to see. I don't know. It's just the idea of it.
The show could certainly hit home.
yeah, right. Like a little with
can.
Putin doing his shit, and like you're just like, I don't know if I want to see this.
I feel like they could get into some of the interesting elements of Fallout that are kind of reserved for like hardcore fans that only dig through like all the text and terminals. Like you could talk about West Tech entirely and their creation of super mutants in a sense, and
yeah, true.
And there are different strains of super mutants, like the East Coast super mutants in Fallout 3, I think, come from Vault 87 or something. So there's different ways they crop up, but to get into like the evil nature of them, like are they going to be the center of a conflict? It's all about when it takes place. The second they give us, I think that's why they didn't do that, because the second you give us a when, Fallout fans just dots connect, man. Like they just draw them all together. So I think that's why they avoided doing that, because they may not be sure themselves. All right, let's talk a little bit about Harry Potter on the other end of the spectrum. Something nice, light, and airy. So Bloomberg is confirming the earlier report of an open-world Harry Potter RPG by Warner Bros. Avalanche Software, known for Disney Infinity, adding that the game will appear on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X in late 2021. The information is based on conversations with two people working on the project, and Bloomberg's article in general gives an overview of the game's development, stating that the early video game footage was real, even if some of the information since its leak has not been. It was supposed to be announced at E3 in June, but will now make its debut after Batman Goes First in August at DC's Fandom event. Karak, relief. We have some information to go off of. You and I have Dustin for backstory for probably the last 60 episodes. This game has probably come up at least once. It's just always, where the fuck did it go after it? Because Warner Bros. Was shutting down channels over it.
Oh, it's
there
crazy.
There was so much talk about it, and then it just disappeared. And we thought maybe it got canceled, but now it's still happening. It's next gen only. It's open world, which is what? I didn't think that at all. It's an RPG. We know a little bit based off the leaked stuff, but Karak and I have talked about it a lot. We'll get into our thoughts with Dustin. All you first, as usual, man.
So what's kind of funny is we talked about this on my show this past week, and I really screwed up because I read Avalanche, and there are two Avalanche.
There are two.
And I should have known that. And I thought I was pretty embarrassed about it. I was like, man, I knew that. But this is not the studio that made Rage 2 and Just Cause. This is the one that made the Nintendo Switch classic, I guess multi-platform classic, Cars 3, Driven to Win was their last game. So, we always, the one guy on my show, he talks about how much he actually liked that game, and so we always joke that it's like, oh, Cars Driven to Win. We always joke about that. But
it's funny though. I've actually seen that game on store shelves for $15, and I'm like, I kind of want to
Yeah.
give it a whirl. And he thinks it's actually good because I was hoping for like a Toy Story 3 moment where you play it and you go, "This is actually
that game was
fucking
so
great."
good.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting that that this studio in particular is the one that's making it, and it's by far, it seems like their most ambitious, biggest project yet. And so I think that's the big, I don't want to say red flag, because I think that there are plenty of instances where we've seen studios really rise above their previous work and create something great. But yeah, I think it's that's the most interesting aspect, is whether or not this studio can deliver an open world RPG with this big of a franchise attached to it. But I mean, I thought that leaked footage looked super cool, and I've always felt that the Harry Potter universe needs more side stories. And unfortunately, so far the only main thing we've gotten is Fantastic Beasts, which I personally didn't really like. I only saw the first one. I didn't see the second one. I wasn't super big on it, but I've always thought that universe is so ripe to tell more stories. And so, if it is, this open world RPG, I think we could be potentially in for a real treat. So who knows though? Again, it's the matter of the studio.
Yeah, my girlfriend's like a huge Harry Potter buff, so she kind of carries the weight on that one because I've watched like 3 Harry Potter movies, the first 3, and that was kind of it. I've never read the books or anything. I enjoyed them, but it's just never been a universe that's grabbed me. I feel I need a game like this to get into Harry Potter because just in general, I think a lot of people can understand like the interaction of a game is sometimes what brings me into the universe. Like I was not a Star Wars fan at all. And then I played KOTOR, and now I love Star Wars. I still love Star Wars, just because that was like the ability to go into the universe and kind of get more intimate with things that they kind of glaze over in the movies. That's something I personally need. Like Harry Potter's had some solid games. Like they had this one almost third-person shooter.
The Deathly Hallows game.
I think so. Yeah. It was like a cover shooter. Like he'd use his wand and boom. Yeah. It was ridiculous. So. I remember watching my friend play that and playing it alongside him. He beat it in like one night, and that game was pretty solid. Speaking of Rage, I actually got that same night. So it's just interesting that those two coincide. But
Maddie, you said you only saw the first 3 movies.
Yes.
Okay. I don't consider myself like a Harry Potter mega fan, but I consider the latter half of those movies, I enjoy them way more than the earlier half, just because it's a total tonal shift. I would say the first 3 are like almost more kids movies, not purely kids, but they get a lot darker. So I would recommend that you go back and amend that.
Yes, I do plan on it. I think it's Goblet of Fire, where there's like they're doing challenges and
right.
Yeah, that's with glittery vampire dude.
Patrick, yeah, I see. Everyone thinks that one's bad. Apparently.
Oh no, dude, that one's good.
I like that
really?
one. Yeah.
I liked it. I remember when I was telling my girlfriend, I was like, I actually really like that one. She was just like, everyone doesn't think that's a good one. I'm like, everyone? I was like, I thought that was pretty good. I don't know what the hell she's talking about, man.
The 2 people that matter right here in this podcast think it's good. So
there you go.
I will add this. One cool thing is if you listen to or if you read what they said, we do get an identification of at minimum when Microsoft will stop the family release because they say it's for Xbox One or Xbox X Series only. So we do know that if they release in August, September, the game has to come after August, September because Microsoft said 1 year. So I think a fall of next year would be like this perfect time to release a game like this. The only thing, what you and I saw looked more like it was Open Academy. Open Hogwarts. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like Bully. Bully was open school. It wasn't an open world. And I'm going to tell you, well, I don't know any other way to describe it. But
it's just a great term.
And so to me, and so like to fans like me, I see that and I'm like, and I absolutely agree with Dustin. Harry Potter is very awesome, but it's time to like, there's other people, than the Potter family. And the only way I can see that working is a childlike or somewhat youthful teen bully style thing in the academy, because otherwise you start getting
like
very
bully.
Adult. And then while that works, I don't know if it works selling as Harry Potter as much if it's not in the school. I think people hear Harry Potter and they think of Hogwarts or the schools. But I will say this, I also would love it to not be at Hogwarts. If you watch Goblet of Fire, which is why it's my favorite, they cover the Russian school, which was scary as fuck. Those guys are like doing dances with staves and, they're sailing galleons underwater and shit. If you watch some of the stuff going on, you have the French school, which was all like, dancy and, French surrender, cheese-eating surrender monkeys. So to me, the idea of like doing other schools would also be cool. Like, what are you going to do? How are you going to make this world sort of like matter?
I don't even remember. They went off like nationalities. I don't even remember that.
They did. They had the French school, which was the blonde girl who was like, Harry, she had that weird accent. Well, I call it weird. Everybody else is going to call it French. You don't remember any of this? Dude, no. You need to go watch it. And then they had the Russian schoolmaster was scary. And the Russians came in and they were like hammering their staves down and they were dancing when they came into like a military tribute, which is like Russian, how they do their marches. To me, that shit could be awesome. Like, what if you get to choose what school you come from and it's an overarching adventure there? Like there's some primo real estate that has not been investigated. And it's one of the more exciting IPs for me is Harry Potter.
Yeah, for sure. As someone who wants to get into it but struggled to get like fully grabbed by it, I'm interested to see more about this game.
And Maddie, what if, we're talking RPG, school life, maybe there's some Persona elements.
Exactly.
I think that would be so cool.
If you follow the IP and read their wiki, there's a dungeon in the Russian school that like kills people all the time. There's already the dungeon in Hogwarts that almost killed them. Like, imagine, Persona, dude.
It seemed like there was some type of dungeon crawling element when you watched the trailer that leaked. Like there was.
That's what I felt.
4 portraits down the side, kind of like Persona 4. Now that you mentioned it, Dustin. And they were in there with like different spells lined up. It's just a weird pairing because Avalanche, whether it is like the Rage team or the Cars and Disney Infinity team, it's just so weird that it's going to be an open world. I think couldn't you make the argument this is open school because isn't Hogwarts a school?
Hogwarts is a school. That's what I think it'll be.
We could create a new genre here, open school.
Why not?
I'd be okay if they put my name on it and give me a little money from that. But no, I'm just really excited because I'm a big, I'm a child at heart. Like I want to see that shit. Mm-hmm. There's enough cynical stuff. Let me cast spells as Harry, and admittedly, I agree with Dustin that the first ones are far more kid-like, but they're also getting kids poisoned and killed. So they just handled it in a more, it's pretty, like the one kid breaks his arm or something and they're like, oh, you need to go to the school. Like they're all laughing it off. And I'm like, dude, he broke his fucking arm. Like that shit sucks. I've had that happen. I know that's terrible. So it's so exciting. Like, and also it would be great to separate, I think, I agree with Dustin. I do not like the new movies. I don't think they do a good job of showing the Harry Potter world nearly as good as a more youthful one. I think that's one issue is that it's too old. Like there's something about Harry Potter that's like kids against the world, like Goonies and like Explorers. And kids against the world is a huge thing. We all feel it. Even if you're 80 years old, you still remember riding your bike in summertime. And I think that's what they need to hit that.
Right.
So I hope, man, I'm crossing my wands. I didn't
even think about that aspect of like, those early ones are pretty dark. There's the girl that like died in the bathroom and the ghost is flirting with Harry.
By the way, the girl in the bathroom, 37 years old when she filmed that scene.
Oh, Moaning Myrtle.
Moaning Myrtle was older than everybody like who was filming that scene with her by like double. It was crazy. And she looked so young. But she's Moaning Myrtle's like a screaming banshee. I mean, she's when you think about it, it's creepy as hell. So
it's in she shows up in Goblet of Fire, and then Harry's in the bathtub, and that's where it's kind of weird. Now
that I think about it, I forgot the age. Now it's even weirder. But yeah, you're right.
Oh boy.
Moving along.
All right, moving along to the patron questions. We've got I actually don't know how many because you know what? As tradition dictates, I don't like to read them until we get to this point in the show. So you guys can really surprise us here. So let's go ahead and open the podcast question section on our Discord, as we always do. And it says we have 16 new messages. That does not mean 16 questions, but let's get to it, starting off with Holzer19. Do you think it would be a good idea for an impartial party, such as the ESRB, to step in and provide the appropriate descriptor, remake, remaster, definitive edition? They would simply compare the original work to the new product and assign the proper wording. I could see this promoting transparency and consumer-friendly practices. I've never thought of this, but this is something I've had an issue with.
Right.
The whole, like I said, Mafia is like the best example right now of everything's definitive edition while being something different. 1 is a remake, it's definitive. 2 is a remaster, it's definitive. 3 is like just the patches, it's definitive. Is definitive just the best possible version of the game? If so, everything could be definitive by like a year after launch. So what do you guys make of this? Do you think this is a good solution? Do you even get bothered by this for this to be something worth investigating?
I hate it, but I don't want more oversight in games.
Exactly what I was going to say. You said exactly what I was thinking.
Okay.
I don't know, man. Sometimes
Let's get into the hows and whys.
Sometimes the risk is just worth it. Dude, you do not, anybody who understands because I'm involved in other entertainment spectrums, if you add government or a council oversight, you have all kinds of weird shit going on. And you also have a judgment of like, what is different? Is a texture different? Does that count as a remaster? What if it's just an AI sharpening of the texture? All this kind of crazy stuff. And I just feel that consumers should know what they're getting. But we can't title anything. What's the ultimate digital unbelievable epic edition? Like, we have no clue. This happens all the time. If you can't just control remaster and remake, you would have to control ultimate. Because remember, guys, there are versions of the game called the ultimate version that don't have the game. We've seen that. State of Decay. Ultimate edition, no fucking game. That's not even and it's on the sale. It's on the sale for the page. Go ahead.
People like, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Just people like that. I was reading online in a couple Reddit threads when people were talking about it that they like having the option to get the collectibles, but you already own the game.
So do I.
Situation.
So do I. Don't call it the game and sell the collectibles separately. Yeah. I have no problem with that. Because didn't Dustin say his nephews or niece or something has a Cuphead statue? That's great, but don't call it the Ultimate Edition. Like, what the ultimate? What? It's not an edition of anything. It's a bunch of toys sold separately. So that's it. I don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah, I'm with you, Karak, just because I think obviously there are times when it becomes necessary for ESRB to step in. I think that when labeling microtransactions, thing like that, I think that's a good thing to do. Now, if we start seeing games get released as remakes and that they're falsely advertised, it would still get so muddy. If people repeatedly were getting burned over and over again and felt like they were being misled, then maybe I could see something along those lines. But I feel like it's almost trying to fix a problem that doesn't even necessarily exist. Because I feel like, I mean, I don't know. Like, to me, it comes down on a game by game. Like, for example, the Mafia 2, was it definitive, the one they just put out on PS4?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all of them are definitive now.
Oh, okay. Like, that for me, like, the problem with that is that they just made a crappy port, and so they need to be held accountable for that. And I guess that doesn't have to do anything with the naming, so I don't necessarily know where I'm going with that. But yeah, I'm in agreement. Just because more oversight creates more problems, especially with the rating boards and stuff like that. There's a lot of money that has to go into it, and so if you have to have another group reviewing the content for another thing, then that could increase the price, which then indie developers, this is where the ones that really get hit. There was that thing where they were going to stop reviewing Vita titles at a certain budget level or something a couple months ago. I don't remember the exact details. So anyway, we want that review process to be as cheap as possible for those small developers. So anything we add that's unnecessary could just potentially make that go up.
Yeah. I mean, just remember, gentlemen, you make this choice, right, to have less oversight, and you get stuck with games like Remastered. All right? So you've picked your poison. You've made your bed, now lie in it, Karak.
I'd rather lie in it and choose than have every one of them be controlled by an overarching board, man. Sorry. It just scares the fuck out of me, man.
I'm just
You can work for the Empire. I'll be a part of the rebellion. I'm just saying.
All right. Next question comes from Mike Fury. To my surprise, he says just one question today. He must be really friggin' busy. Let me just say that. It's for Karak, hold on. Mike Fury did not proofread again. Just one question today for Karak. Were you alive for the events of Bhagwan Shri Rajneesh?
No.
Sorry. Okay. And if so, did it have any effects on you? And if no, have you heard stories about those events?
Yes.
Is that the Netflix documentary?
It's the I believe that's the poisoning that happened here in Oregon where I live.
Said, for those who don't know, a controversial guru builds a utopian city in the Oregon desert.
That's Wild Wild Country on Netflix. There's a whole
Wild Wild Country. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I watched that. Yeah.
Interesting.
And it was a little bit before my time, and we heard all about it. In fact, it affected a ton of businesses, because once one business is affected in that way, everybody felt unsafe. So wow. I grew up, and there was always like the parents, with a myth. It's almost like the myth of like Russians have Baba Yaga. It's like, don't go out. It probably was some dude who killed a kid. But, it's like it becomes this thing. Mm-hmm. That is what it was like. It was when you were growing up in that layer of fear. It was like D&D as well. Because you had one person who probably killed themselves, and everybody's like, do you believe you can fly? It's like, no, it's a D&D game. What the fuck, man? I'm not an idiot. But like parents were so stressed at that time. It was a big deal, man. It was a big deal.
Yeah, I never heard of it. It sounds like an interesting...
It's an interesting show, but it's a depressing one because it shows how easily people are corrupted by YouTube reviewers. No, it shows how easy people are corrupted by like somebody in power, somebody who's charismatic, and what they can cause other people to do.
Makes sense. I'll make sure I watch it when I'm in a good mood.
Yes, good idea. Good idea.
Ivory State asks, do you think that we'll see a new PSVR for the PS5 and any other VR devices for the console, or will VR be mostly relegated to PCs? From what I can tell, VR is gaining in popularity, but it's still rather niche.
It's all true, and there's for sure a PSVR for PS5.
Yeah, I think that especially now with the Quest becoming a huge success, that Sony is looking at that and thinking of, different ways. I mean, they already confirmed that PSVR will be supported on PS5, the current one. So,
and the patents for don't fit the current one. The patents that are leaking. So it's obvious that, they're coming up with that. People need to remember a patent means nothing, but it does mean they're investigating stuff, and it's certainly not for the current one. Right.
Yeah, that's a good question. And it's always, I never know what the state of VR is, because the online discourse is either like VR's dead, it's failed, and then it's like they can't keep Oculus Quest in stock because people are buying them up so fast. So
bought a Rift just because it was in stock, and he was like, they're never available, I'm gonna get one.
You want to know you are guys, I just want to make sure you guys are talking about the Quest and not the Index, right? So if you think the Quest sold well, the Index is almost $1,000, and that thing was the #1 seller on Steam for like 4 months when Half-Life was announced. It's and look at HP. They have the brand new WMR that they're working with Valve with, and that thing is 4K, super high resolution. Like, VR is definitely here to stay, but it's a platform for a platform, guys. You don't want to see it within at least 1 year. Nobody wants to foot $400 for a PS5 and then put another $400 for a PSVR.
You have to wait for the money to come in again.
Yeah, man, you gotta don't grift your consumer, man. Focus on the console for a while, and PSVR will come.
I just hope, I think they'll do it again. I just hope that they go harder than they did with PSVR. I hope they're looking at Valve and seeing the success of Half-Life Alyx and be like, listen, we can't, not that there are a lot of great PSVR games, but I think from the first party output, and I don't want to say they half-assed it again, but put your money where your mouth is and make something, put it at a full price tag and make it worth it, and people will come for that. I mean, look at Half-Life Alyx is awesome and incredible, and that's why, I mean, I don't want to say exclusively, but that's a huge reason why the Index is flying off the shelf still, is because people know that that's a 10 out of 10 as a masterpiece, new experience, something people have never played before. Even if you've played VR, like Half-Life Alyx is one of those games that's like, you have
well,
to
probably
play it.
has the best shooting, and all I do is PSV or shooters, and I would still say Alex might have the best shooting of any VR game, which is crazy because it's also a full game.
Should I buy it? I've never played really
Yes.
much Half-Life.
Yeah.
Dude, it doesn't
Can I get
matter.
away with it?
It matters not at all if
Okay,
you
I'm gonna
played.
pull the trigger then.
What it
Part of
has
the fun.
is some of the best gameplay for a shooter that I've seen, and I do Contractors and Pavlov and Boneworks, and that game's physics and the story and the level of fucking fidelity. Well, I have a reverb, so I don't know. It still looks really good on other systems, but its level of fidelity is damn near Resident Evil 7's, which was very high. But Resident Evil 7 never went to other systems. So with Alex,
Which is a shame.
Yeah, it's a big shame. It's
okay.
I can't wait.
I think I'll pull the trigger on that.
Oh, dude, you should. You'll love it. You'll do a review on it, I bet.
Oh,
dude,
really?
I feel like dude, it's so good. You're gonna love it. Like, I feel like for me, I've played so many VR games. I have a PSVR, I have an Oculus, I have an Oculus Quest. I have like a light obsession with VR, and Half-Life Alyx was like, I hadn't felt the feel. The game gave me the feelings of the first time I played VR, even though I've tons and tons of hours. It's like so above and beyond, I feel like, anything else that's out there. So play it.
See, I have a Rift S, so I've been playing like Beat Saber. I played a little bit of Pavlov. I played, what else did I play? Vader Immortal. We were talking about a VR game earlier, and I think it was Karak was saying like he'd like to go back to it just kind of for its gameplay, and that's how I was with Vader Immortal, where you could go into the free play mode and like you'd have sometimes a blaster.
Oh, I was talking about Iron Man. Yeah,
that's what it was. Yeah, and actually, it's funny you bring up Iron Man because that reminded me. You know, they have been at least pushing the VR a little bit in the sense that I saw a lot of promotion for Marvel Iron Man VR.
Yeah.
And that was surprising to me because Sony's not known for, like, when it comes to them promoting anything outside of the console itself, I feel like they just fall short. Like, I'm talking about the Vita, the VR. I just feel like they don't promote a lot. And at least with this latest VR game, even if it's not seemingly amazing, that's just solid, that they actually pushed it. That's all that matters, you know. Because the thing with the Vita is that it developed this weird cult following because it was such a significant moment when Sony actually went, the Vita, you know, like it was like, oh shit, they're actually mentioning it. Make it normal to mention it, you know, like that's how people know it's here to stay, not this niche thing that you're getting involved in and you're in this little clique. You know, that's something that I think they should avoid by just talking about it more.
I think also with VR, you're looking at Xbox. I mean, WMR already can work technically on the Xbox. They just don't have the SDK running for like a normal consumer. So you look at that. You look at Sony. I think VR as a platform on top of another platform makes sense, especially with Sony, who was smart. They have the box that does the. It basically transcodes the VR into a flat picture, which on a PC takes a little bit extra memory and a little bit extra processing. I do feel that Sony seems, with you look at some of the stuff that they've done, the 3D audio and stuff that they've talked about. Well, Microsoft has that too, but it still seems like they're definitely for it. And I don't think they are at some kind of like minimum when it comes to IPs that would be amazing in VR. Drive Club, not amazing, but they tried. But like GT, when you have a more powerful system, and as somebody who has a reverb, which is like the highest resolution one, Pimax is, I have one of those, but it doesn't look as good. But when you're playing it, dude, I'm telling you, Matty, it's crazy. If you're playing if you can do that on a console, you also save the gamer some money, because a PC does cost more to probably deliver like for like, you know, for these consoles, just due to optimizations. Whether that's true or not, but I think it probably is.
Right. We're back to Holzer. Normally, we don't like to double up on people, but he asked us a very important question. His fate is in our hands. We're going to make a very delicate selection today, and I love what he's asked us. So with the perfect storm of schoolwork, farm work, PS Plus, and frequent sales, I have amassed quite the backlog of games and don't know what to play next. Due to this, I'm going to let you choose one of my next two games. My backlog includes, and he is fucked up, and you'll know why when I start going down this list: Bloodborne, Persona 5, BioShock, Dishonored 2, Neo, Prey, XCOM 2, Shadow of the Colossus, Sniper Elite 4, Arkham Knight, Hitman, Injustice 2, and the Ezio collection. I'll also throw in Rise of the Tomb Raider because it's apparently free in July. So the commonality here is most of these games are very fucking long. And how do we decide? We're going to choose one of his next 2 games here. Gentlemen, would you like to put in your votes?
I'll put in my vote, and then we'll just all vote, and we'll see if anybody overlaps.
Okay.
Is that how we do it?
Hitman, like all at once?
Hitman 2 is mine. I really do believe Hitman 2 because it's parsable. You can parse that any way you want. It's got replayability that's unbelievable, but you don't have to. The other ones are all great. They're all great, but right now I'm on a Hitman kick. So that's just my answer because I'm enjoying the fuck out of Hitman 2.
So hard.
He didn't say Royal.
Oh, you're right. He didn't say Royal. Man, it's hard to disagree with Hitman, which I feel like Hitman is the perfect game to play. Some people don't like playing multiple games at once. I'm not. I play like too many games at once. I'm the opposite. But Hitman is the perfect game, I feel like, to mix in while you're playing another game because you could just go in, play a mission or two, and mess around and then go back. My gut reaction, though, as soon as, the first game, Bloodborne, on there. For me, personally, there's still a little bit of time left, and I need to do some thinking, but I'm pretty sure that's, like, my favorite game of this gen. But it's between, there's, like, Bloodborne, Persona 5, Nier, stuff like that. But
he's not going to go wrong. That's for sure.
Yeah, he's not. He's got a great selection here.
Almost any of those games.
I'm with Dustin on Bloodborne. That would be my selection personally. At first, I was going to say Dishonored 2 because kind of like what Karak was saying with Hitman, you can sort of slice it up how you want. There is replayability there if you want, but you can sort of go in, have a really good time for like 15 hours and move on.
And then just be done. Yeah.
Exactly. Bloodborne, though, oh God, it's so good. It is. If Royal didn't exist and Spider-Man didn't exist, it's in a top 3 for my exclusives on PS4. It's
Can I ask you though something?
Stupidly
Matty?
good. Of course.
I felt like he was saying. So I personally believe Bloodborne. Again, I'm not a huge fan of Bloodborne, but that was technical, not mechanical.
I probably agree with you.
if you look at Bloodborne, I just feel that requires. I could be wrong, but it feels like it would require such an investment. That because I'm going to tell you, I went back to Surge 2 after 3 days and I was getting my ass schooled. I'd be like, okay, wait, I got to redo this and I got to think that's why, just so you know, I knew what you meant the moment you said he's fucked up because I think you meant Bloodborne was the only one that should have even been on that list. Because
not only that, but all those games are so long. Like his choice was just,
okay,
gotcha. What do I spend the next 40 hours in at minimum? That's
the only thing I would see with Bloodborne is it is probably as good as everybody says. But that seems to me like I got a little anxious thinking of like having to sit down.
Mm-hmm. It's a dedication. Yeah, I used to embrace that type of challenge.
Hard?
Now.
Is it as hard as Neo?
Bloodborne is okay. So here's how I describe it. For me, Bloodborne was difficult in the first 3-hour window. I remember in that little circle you're going through with the cleric beast and everything. I got my ass fucking stomped for 3 hours straight. I remember being so excited coming home from my school and just getting destroyed. And it's because what was happening is I played a lot of Dark Souls, not even like in anticipation, but just you only knew one type of Souls game.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all about shield hugging. You could do mage and whatnot if you wanted to, but I was a shield hugger. I'll be the first to admit it. And so for me, unlearning that and then now learning aggression, attack when you're low on health, get your health back, dodging. Games like Sekiro exist, so and the Surge 2 exists, so they're more nimble, they're more rewarding in aggression. But for me, that game like kicked the fucking shit out of me so much in the early going. But once I adjusted, that game was so empowering. It felt great to play. The other thing with Bloodborne is some people like to. I'm one of those people. I use the Ludwig's Holy Blade. It's busted. It's really good. You know, it's really quick, great damage. It's the best weapon in the game outside of some of the DLC. So that's also being accounted for. I played that and made my life a little bit easier, but didn't feel like it took away the challenge. I just feel like it depends what he wants. If he wants like quick stories, he's got BioShock, he's got Sniper Elite 4, he's got Shadow of Colossus, Prey. He's got a lot of options for quick ones. Hitman's quick. But if you want a more extensive experience, you have Neo, Bloodborne. I would say just don't play Neo. If you're going to play Neo 2. That would be my take, personally. I think Neo 2 is leagues better.
Did you say Sniper Elite 4?
Yes, he did. He
no.
did have that on his list.
No! Remove that game from your fucking list. What are you doing?
It's gone. It's gone. I'm sorry.
Listen, remove that buggy POS from your fucking system, man. What are you talking about? Wait, Dustin, did you like it?
No. I was gonna say I'm glad that you said no to one of these games, because I was like, man, it's a little too early for me to become a heel on this podcast already. But I was gonna say, take that Ezio collection and just get rid of it. Just trade it in, put it in the trash, give it to a baby somewhere. I don't just
give it to a baby that will never play games.
Yeah, the one that will like enjoy the shininess of the disc. I don't know. I played all those games, and it's time to move on.
You look bitter.
Yeah.
You look very upset about what happened to you.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. What's funny is I played all those games because I thought the Assassin's Creed 3, I really wanted to play that because I thought the setting looked cool. So I played through all the old ones, and I was like, this was okay. But I know some people hold those games in such high esteem. I think that port wasn't very super good either.
It was.
Collection, definitely not.
I thought price-wise it was worth it. Like price-wise, because you do get a bunch of games, which is always nice. Right. But you're absolutely right. And then I got to ask you, though, did you like 3? Because that's the only 8. Oh, okay. Thank God. Dude, 3 was just fucking weird.
It was funny because even though I don't really like that trilogy, I played them to get ready for 3, and I like blitzed through them, and then I played 3, and I'm like,
why?
Maybe the journey was better than the destination here, and I didn't even necessarily really like that.
So. I think this is Maddie. I think Maddie likes 3.
I do.
Okay, because I was seeing Maddie get uncomfortable there, and I was like, I think I remember
a little bit. That's
because we talked about this, I think.
I like Assassin's Creed 3. I always say Assassin's Creed 3 is a great Assassin's Creed game once you get past the 6 sequence. Once you're past that, you're free, man. You got the homestead, you got great side content. I love the American Revolution setting. Just got a lot to like there.
I have a question. Did you like playing? I liked playing as was it Edward at the starting? When you were the you're the Templar at the starting, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I mean,
and I actually like that and then you get on the boat and somebody's poisoning or somebody's doing something on the boat, because I remember you have to figure out why the barrels.
They do a ton of setup with that game.
Yeah. It's probably not as bad as I think. It's just for whatever reason.
No, because it is very much like, I think Assassin's Creed 3 is very much the epitome of like the cookie cutter AC game. Like
true.
It's collect-a-thon, climb the tall thing. Really poorly paced story, bright white loading screens. Like it checks all those fucking Assassin's Creed boxes. But there's something about it, and I think it's that it was one of the few games I beat. I enjoyed. I played some of the open world content, and I had nothing to play, so I went back and went into the homestead and found like this whole almost second game in there with the ship and everything you do there. So that was I guess that's my inherent bias with it. Is like I had that second discovery where it was like, this is so much more than I thought, and it didn't feel as like collect-a-thon-ish, but.
And I know like Dustin was saying the same thing of like, it's time to move on. I like Rogue and Syndicate a lot, but I will say, hats off to the Assassin's Creed developers, because even though I'm dissing on 3, when I look at that series, including Liberation, which I played for review, including the other one I can't remember that got translated over, I think they've been consistently at the very minimum good. And that's a lot of titles. It's a lot of titles to hit, where I don't feel Far Cry has done that. But I do feel, I don't even say it, because I'll punch you through the screen if you say Primal. Primal is awesome.
I just tried to gently
I knew. But no, hats off. We can all bitch about us, and it rightfully so, but for that many titles, a big company like that did a pretty good job when you take it all as one thing.
I agree.
Except for Unity at launch.
Oh my
God! I had a great experience with Unity at launch.
That's impossible. Master Chief Collection and Unity are the 2 biggest pieces of shit that have ever been released day one on consoles. I don't know how you had a good experience with Unity.
I'm so happy I have a video review, though, because people can see my game running fine. They can see me doing whatever the fuck I want. Nothing's breaking.
Magic.
I had the magical copy, and you can listen in that review. I'm like positive about it. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty good. It's got some kinks here. I had no idea. And what's funny is the video didn't even get like mass downvoted. I think people were like, "Aw, he's ignorant," you know?
I love that. Oh, he's so cute.
Yeah,
he's so positive.
He's trying. All right. Next question comes from Vault 101 guy. A podcast I listen to has a fun game they play, and I'm interested to hear your answer. Basically, you start at the year of your birth and pick your favorite game from that year, and the next week you would pick a game from that year, from the year after your birth, and so on and so forth. So for me, I was born in '94, and my game would have to be Donkey Kong Country. Oh boy, I got to pick a game from '95. Dude, I was 1. I was 0.
I mean, what's he mean? Were we? Are we supposed to have played them? I don't understand. I wasn't playing games when I was 1.
Yeah, I guess you pick a game from your birth year, and then have you played anything from like? Let me see, games that came out in 1995.
That's what I'm Googling right now because I'm like,
Bro, you guys were born, and I had graduated. So we're talking Atari 2600 Pong for me, and I have no remembrance of those.
Let's see here. Chrono Trigger came out on my birth year. So I have not played Chrono Trigger, but it is up my alley. Let's see here. There's a lot of interesting ones we've got here. Kirby's Avalanche, Mega Man X3. Ooh, that might be the pick. I just like Mega Man X series entirely. Yeah, normally I'd probably pick Chrono Trigger because that just makes sense for who I am, but I can't be fair and act like I've actually played it. So I'm just going to say Mega Man X3.
I'm going to say Doom from 1993. Is maybe it was either that or Super Mario All-Stars, but that's a remake or whatever. So we'll say Doom for me.
Carrick?
I mean, I literally don't have a game. I don't even remember back like
okay.
Then. So Atari 2600 is like fucking Android, or what was it called? Asteroids. Like that was.
Yeah.
My mom played Frogger. I remember watching her play Frogger when I was like super young. That's it. It was way too young for me to remember.
Boom. It's a cool segment idea, but
yeah, we should do something though that we like maybe 13 years old, right? Or something. Or like our first year we had a system might be easier.
Yeah, for me that was like 2000 something. I don't know. I got the N64. I don't know, man. Life's a blur. All right, next question comes from Element 1. Hey guys, been a few. Hope you are both. Sorry, Dustin, I didn't mention that you were coming on the show in our Patron question, so I'll translate this. Hope you are all having a great day as always. I have a quick few questions for you. Due to the Fallout TV show announcement, do you think this will be spark a lot more games to be adapted for exclusive TV series by Amazon, Netflix, etc.? Kind of started with The Witcher, however, that's based off the books. That's something we actually didn't mention with our Fallout TV talk. It wasn't based off. The Witcher wasn't based off its games. It was based off the books, where it had its own separate source material to like base it off of and respect the games almost. We did cover this a little bit, but I figured this was a good opportunity to add in any additional thoughts that maybe you guys have. If not, we can just move right on.
I have a question for you guys. I mean, with this, what about Halo? So I'm not in love with the idea of a Halo TV show because Master Chief, like, it just doesn't make any sense to me, regardless. Do you guys think something like that is going to work? Because I actually feel the opposite of what he feels. I don't want more. I want good, which is different. I'm a little nervous that like some of these titles that are like first-person shooter, why would that be like unless it's a story-based like a Fallout or a world-based like Fallout? I'm more worried that there's going to be too many. You know, that if it does succeed, you'll have the. I'm trying to think of a game that, like, I don't know, like an Assassin's Creed that would work. That's IP out the wing, but like you look at some of these other titles that might be popular. I'm not 100% sure. Like Dishonored. I know you love Dishonored, Matty, but could you see an entire show based, a TV show with multiple episodes being based in the Dishonored world? Well, maybe.
Maybe, because if you take like Dishonored 1, 2, and Death of the Outsider and try to turn that into a show, like I could kind of see how that would unfold. But it's another one of those situations where Dishonored is great because you have story choices and then the way you play determines the outcome. And I think that's part of like the allure of being in that universe. And that's just, I guess, as a gamer speaking, and that's, I think, the strength of it being interactive. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think every game could play out well as a show. Fallout is one of those examples that could very well flop because it doesn't have a core to it, just outside of its universe and its setting. And in the game, it's better when the game is set in one place because you get to go everywhere in that one setting whenever you want. Whereas in a show, being in just like Chicago like the whole time, how do you capture that? It's just there's a lot of question marks there. So I do hope that we don't see a huge trend in a lot of games being adapted into shows, just because you're going to start to see a lot of them really bomb. Like there are certain fits. I think the Cuphead one is like an ideal fit because it was literally they took like a 30s cartoon and then they based their game off of that.
Style.
Yeah, the animation style, the art style, all of that. So it makes sense for them to almost like return to the form in a sense and make a show in that style. To me, that clicks a little bit more. But you're going to just see, I think you're going to see a lot of companies step out. You're going to see Destiny. You're just going to see like everyone who has somewhat of a remarkable IP go, oh, I have a show that I want to make as well. And I would not be surprised if that's why rather Fallout came out and said like, yeah, we're doing a TV show because they want to just get ahead of everyone. So that's like, we're established. Like, people know.
I think, Matty, I think there's definitely going to be a lot more shows and movies, especially based on, first of all, the success of The Witcher last year.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And hate to say this, but the financial success of Sonic the Hedgehog is, it's
the show did well. The movie,
the movie, I think is considered the most financially successful video game movie. So,
are we talking about Sonic? The weird-looking Sonic that got transformed into the okay-looking Sonic? That movie?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, gotcha. Because I haven't seen it, so
neither have I.
I have.
Oh man, I've been tempted because I think I can rent it for like $3. I'm like, do I hate myself that much?
Yeah.
But I also am curious.
It's not like awful.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I think that especially now with The Witcher, you see like even though it's not based on the games, it's very respectful and kind of inspired by the vision of the games, which I think is what made people comfortable with it. And then the huge lesson that came out of Sonic, and that it's like you can do your own thing, but if you make the core of it look wrong, people are going to be disgusted. So, and then, with that turnaround and the huge financial success of Sonic, I think that we are definitely I think that movie studios are looking at game IP right now and is like, who is ripe for the harvest? There's already fan base, fan base is established
built
around. Yeah. So it's just like, even if it's a failure, these people will probably go see it. You'll at least make your money back in most scenarios. So expect more, I'd say.
Yeah. Do you think a New Vegas show, this is still an element with us here, do you think a New Vegas show without the Courier could work? A show based on Benny, Kaiser, House, etc. Every time I think about this, I think about how it could be like Black Sails.
The pirate show he's talking about.
I like the idea of a New Vegas style show, kind of showing the, because there's a lot of interesting stuff established prior to New Vegas that you learn through conversation, but to be there, like seeing Benny set up, I think it's Benny. It's been a while since I played New Vegas. I apologize, but to see them setting up like Courier 6 and everything, and how that plays out. Normally, you just hear about it through story, and then you have the Lonesome Road DLC, which really fleshes that out. It'd be cool to see that all going down, kind of leading up to the iconic scene where Benny shoots you in the head. I think the Fallout fandom would explode if this was any way based in like Fallout New Vegas. And the fact that Todd Howard's involved makes me think that's probably not going to happen. If he wasn't, then I'd be like, oh, it could happen. But I don't see Todd Howard being like, hey, that thing everyone else did. Yep. Let's go fucking do that. Yeah.
That's why you'll never see a Batman Origins definitive edition, because they pretend it doesn't exist. They isn't it Origins or is it City? Which one's the one?
Origins.
It is. Yeah. And it's one of the best games. They'll just pretend it doesn't exist. I don't think we'll ever see a Vegas thing.
I agree.
Too bad.
Same thing with the game. If they end up porting a previous Fallout game, it'll be 3. It will not be New Vegas. And I would love to be wrong on that, by the way. I want to make that clear. Last question from Elements, and then we'll move on. This has probably been asked before, but if you could adapt a game into a TV show, what would it be? Keep up the great work, guys.
This is a hard one.
I don't operate on that level, because I already watch very minimal amounts of TV because I love games. So for me to say this is so good, I need a show.
I know talking to you about Marvel makes me mad every time. It's like every time I talk to you, you'd be like, because you don't know anything I'm talking about. I didn't see that one. Or I didn't see this one. I'm just like, Jesus, man, you're the one guy I know who
loves
games.
That's why we have Dustin here.
I've seen up to Endgame, so I can
But
you've
help
seen
some, dude. Trying to talk to him about a movie, it's. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that.
You have more success looking at this desk and just asking.
It's so crazy. Man, a game into a TV show.
Some of the stuff I actually like is already based in a show or an anime. Looking at my game shelf. Even that is.
It's hard for me to answer this because I'm just so much. I really am, and I feel like sometimes this is I don't want to be a naysayer, but I really am believe that games are games, and that for the almost 99% of the time you don't benefit from turning a game into a show.
Yeah, right.
There are exceptions to the rule. Well, I don't know. Are there? Maybe. I don't know. I haven't thought about it, but I don't know. I mean, part of me is maybe it would be cool to do a pre-Fall of Rapture BioShock show that's more of a drama in certain ways. I don't know. There are worlds that I think would be cool to see on film, but I'm too pessimistic to actually wish for them to exist.
I really like that idea. I'm going to go ahead and just piggyback that idea.
That works.
I like the idea of BioShock. Yeah, that would be one because there's room there for sure.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't know because the idea I try to think of for a show is is this interesting enough for me to want to watch and learn more, but could this be done better in a game? And that sounds like something that I would want to see unfold through a show. I wouldn't want to be playing it because maybe there isn't, you wouldn't have the plasmids and stuff or all the guns and people going crazy because they've taken too much plasmids and stuff. So you're not going to have some of the stuff that makes the game already good. So I think, that's you hit the nail on the head there, Dustin, for sure. Karak, do you have one?
Yeah. And nobody's going to believe that I'm saying it, but I'm going to say it. I honestly believe this would be a better show than it is a game. Dragon Age. I actually, now that I've watched Game of Thrones and all that stuff, I honestly believe a fantasy, taking that and getting good actors. There's so much going on in Dragon Age. I would actually be more interested in that than Inquisition 2 or whatever they're going to call it.
Well, the thing is that one thing I've learned with Inquisition is that you've got factions and then sub-factions. So there's just so many, there's so much there that I think the game, especially in the case of Inquisition, there's so many distracting, shitty side quests that don't build up those factions that when you return to the main story and they're the mages, the rebelling mages, the Tevinter mages, you have the Templars, the Red Templars, you've got the it starts with a T, but there's just so many fucking factions in that series that it's insane. And they're all within each other too. It's not they're splintering out like a tree branch. They're all just stacked on one another with a slightly different name. The Venatori is another one. You're Christ, everyone's got a name. And so it can get a bit overwhelming. I think that would work out as a show, just if anything, for me to process it a little better.
Yeah, there's a lot. It can be almost too much when you're trying to read and listen to people talk. And the Trevinte Medges or whatever, and you're which group?
Yeah, exactly. Benjam writes in, if you could be an NPC in any open world type game, what would you want your character's background/story to be? What quest would you want to give the main character? Benjam, I would be myself, because that's what I try to create in every video game. So finally I can insert myself into a game, and I would give myself, I don't know what I want people to give me quests. I don't want to give myself quests. Sometimes maybe I underestimate myself. Sometimes I overestimate myself, depending on my movie, or my movie. My head's in the previous conversation, depending on my mood. But that's what I would pick. What about you guys?
Go ahead, Dustin.
I don't know. This one's hard. I feel like I don't have a fleshed out idea, but I feel like I'd want to be something like a side quest from a Yakuza game. That it's like something mundane that becomes ridiculous, like the street performer that needs to prove to his son about, that he can be the best street performer. So I don't know, but the thing is not too crazy though, because Yakuza has like the weird like Mr. Libido guy that goes around in his underwear, so not necessarily that. But
I remember that.
Yeah. So
it's legitimately funny too that when he said Yakuza, that was the first character that popped in my head. And with Yakuza, it is a D&D random generator for every quest. Like this shit is so weird in that game. It's
awesome. Yeah,
it is. It's awesome. And I got into it late. I think Maddie and I both. Maddie did too, right, Maddie? You got into Yakuza late, right?
I got into it when each of the versions were like $20.
Yeah, I got into it way late, and it's a blessing because they're fucking awesome. So I don't really have an answer for this. Like, I don't really have. I can't really think of anything off the top of my head. Like, I would be because giving yourself you'd be a side character, you'd be killed. Like. If it was a normal character, it'd be Mass Effect, because you hump everybody in Mass Effect by hitting 3 buttons. So I'd just be like, A, B, A, let's bang. A, B, A, let's bang. It's so easy to bang in Mass Effect. It's unbelievable. But if I was a side character, I'd be killed, right? Everybody in Mass Effect either dies or gets shot up or scarred. So I don't know. It's a shitty life to be a NPC or side character in any video game. It is
That's
a
why
really
I put myself
bad.
as the main character.
Yeah, no, you're right.
I'm canon.
Yeah.
In the next game.
Is Shepard alive? I don't know, but Maddie is. That's all that matters.
There you go. Holzer, we did answer your question that's next on the list about the pricing of games. So we're going to move on from that and talk with Tropical Ice Cow. Firstly, as someone who normally buys the PS4 exclusives on release, I feel I have to wait with Ghost of Tsushima, as I feel I don't know enough about the game yet. How do you guys feel about this game with 2 weeks until release? Secondly, I am unsure how PC prices relate to consoles in the US, but Australia, they are at least $10 cheaper at launch. Do you think the consoles can afford to increase the price if they are if they are themselves going to be fairly pricey, or do you see this as a way to decrease console cost? So let's begin with Ghosts, I guess. How do you guys feel as we approach the launch of this game?
I can't talk about it because I am reviewing it.
Oh, you are? Okay, my bad.
Well, I'm not reviewing it.
Neither am I.
I can say,
so you can say whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah. I don't really know how to feel about this game. I mean, the presentation they did, I thought looked fine. It looked interesting. It's weird because there's nothing that screams to me that this game's bad. In fact, I think it looks good, but there's nothing that screams to me like, you need to play this and you better be there launch day. It's like, I actually think this is a lot of times with Sony first party, I'm just there day one, no matter what, just because I want to know. I'm always curious. But I think I'm just going to wait and see what the overall consensus is on this one before I plop down $60. But yeah, I mean, it's hard too, because I feel like I have a little bit of samurai fatigue overall with, both Neo games and Sekiro. And so I'm not like super pumped to be a samurai again, but which I guess Sekiro isn't really a samurai, but you know what I mean? That's the same kind of era and stuff in Japan, but
sword fighting,
right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. The other weird vibe that I kind of got was, I don't want to say like Days Gone, because they're obviously very different, but there's something about it with that open world that kind of gave me that vibe, which I didn't really like that game. It's probably not a fair comparison at all. But
no, it is.
I get what you're saying, though.
I do too. Yeah. I definitely understand why you would think that.
So it's one of these. The thing that I was wondering too, but they're like so focused on exploration. And I like exploration in games, but I think that there needs to be a medium where it's like, okay, you have this giant open world and there's like points where there's stuff in it. And then there's just long blank areas of nothing. And so it's the thing where it's like, I'm actually surprised how little of this game that they've shown. I don't feel like I even really know what the game is. We saw that bit of combat and we saw the bit of exploration, but I don't know, like, if I sit down to play Ghost of Tsushima for 2 to 3 hours, what does that session look like? Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, that's why I think your Days Gone comparison is entirely fair, because they literally kind of hid that one away too. And for a lot of people, they were surprised by the game because reviews came out and they're like, this isn't very great. Obviously, it got patched, but when myself, Karak, many others played it, it like barely functioned. And so I don't think Ghosts is in that position where it's not running well, but there is a degree of almost secrecy with that game that I would be lying if I said I wasn't a little like fishy about.
Dude, that's the thing about Sony is that, and I kind of made a tweet the other day about this, that just like the way that they market some of these games is just so strange to me.
Dustin, every time a big Sony title comes out, I have to do a video about reviews. I just went back and looked. So it was like Days Gone. I had to do a video to explain reviews to everybody because they could not figure out why no one knew, blah, blah, blah. There is something. You are absolutely right. There is something about the way it's all treated.
This is
confusing.
Colin has said this on the air, so I feel comfortable saying this publicly, but apparently Housemarque hired third-party PR to do PR for Resogun because Housemarque wasn't happy with how Sony PR treated the game, which I don't know, especially thinking about Days Gone. You guys were talking about your broken builds, and that was kind of the story of that review cycle, and how there's a lot of people that thought that game would have scored higher if it wasn't so broken. The game that was presented to the players on day one was, at least technically on a technical level, superior than what reviewers were playing. So, yeah.
Well, I do have to say, I had the day one patch.
Oh, okay.
Reviewers test the patch almost all the time. So whenever anybody says, did you have the day one patch? The reviewer had to have the day one patch because we're the ones who are usually testing the goddamn thing and telling Sony, or Microsoft will say, email us as well.
It's because it needed I think a fourth patch is when it was actually stable.
I think that Colin's right, and he's not. This isn't the first one nor the last one that'll have third party, because I think Sony, like Microsoft, are starting to say, "Oh, press is this. We don't want to handle influencers, so we'll go with these guys." Which that makes sense. I think Colin's. I don't know about the unhappiness, but that kind of stuff is known throughout the industry that Sony and Microsoft are starting to do that. But I'm telling you right now, dude. It's so weird because I can agree. Whoever wrote this question, the one thing I can say is, if you have any questions about this game, I do not disagree with you, because it's also by Sucker Punch, who their last game was like an action game. This game originally, I think people thought was going to be Dark Souls. I mean, right? But
not
guys,
that, but
it was Assassin's Creed.
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
Japanese Assassin's Creed when you saw the
which is like good and bad.
Mm-hmm. And I can admit that I'm reviewing it and I'm not giving you guys any data whatsoever. I haven't touched it yet. So I agree with him. It can be confusing with some of their titles, like what you're getting.
Yeah, especially, and I can understand the hesitation, Tropical, because they haven't released a game since 2014. And right. I'm sorry, but what I saw in that game did not look like 6 years of work in the sense of what the content that they displayed was. It was very much checklisty, which isn't a bad thing. I consider checklists in that category of guilty pleasures. Like, I put it in there with like Muso games because they're not necessarily the most compelling, the most intentionally well-designed things in a game, but there's something about them that's fun or satisfying, and so you kind of just roll with it. Mm-hmm. I could see this game sort of having that. So yeah, 2 weeks until release. I wouldn't pre-order personally. I don't know why anyone bothers with pre-ordering. Just because it's better just to get all those answers. And
luckily, the review is going to become early anyway. Like, you'll be able to, if you want to if you want to pre-order, you can do it 2 days. Why doesn't anybody wait? If you get something for pre-ordering, don't pre-order 2 weeks ahead. Wait until the review embargo has been announced. Wait until then, and then go, okay, this is what I want. Then pre-order. You're still going to get all the same shit.
It's not like the game's going to disappear.
Yeah. It's so odd sometimes, the thought process.
Yeah. His second question was, I'm unsure how PC prices relate to console in the US, but in Australia they are at least $10 cheaper at launch. Do you think the consoles can afford to increase the price if they are themselves going to be fairly pricey, or do you see this as a way to decrease console costs? I think they're separate, but what do you gentlemen think?
Yeah, I feel like, PC and consoles are in competition, and they aren't in some ways, because I think there are some people that are always just going to go get a console and they're not even thinking about PCs. So, and I don't know. The people that are playing on PC, they don't necessarily care about the price. They care about the fact that their game's running at, 60 or 120 FPS at 4K because they built their PC to do that. So,
right.
Yeah.
Next question comes from Zane. We have a handful left. Hope you all are doing swell. Just two things come to mind. In regards to the Fallout series rumored, how would you guys feel about it being an individual story each episode rather than one narrative spanning each episode? That's not exactly something I'd be crazy about, but there are some cool things that could come of it. Also, how's Clone Wars so far? Now, that's from me. I'll answer that afterwards. But we'll return to Fallout once more, because this is the hot topic for the community. What did you guys make of the idea of, instead of kind of like a Battlefield 1 story, just like individual slices?
We fucking know how that worked out.
Yeah.
Dustin, did you like Battlefield 1's little snippets? Little French snippets of stories?
Honestly, I played the intro, and then I played part of the first mission, and I'm like, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I'm
okay,
good.
Gotcha.
I'm not big on... I've never been super big on Battlefield, though. So
okay.
Fair enough.
As far as the Fallout show, I think I could see a version of the show that could be successful. I think it would be a lot harder for them to make successful. Like, Black Mirror is not a good comparison. I'm just trying to think of like an anthology, like a show where
an anthology where it changes each time, but it's in like
right
the same feel of everything.
You'd have to have a really good hook for each episode. Like this episode's all about super mutants and whatever. And, this episode's all about this time that a nuclear bomb blew up on Megaton or something. I don't know. But I could also see that being a negative because there's less, like, throughput to keep watching the next episode. Yeah. Unless the hook is that good that you're thinking, man, what's the crazy thing about the next episode that's going to happen? So,
gotcha.
Potentially.
As for how the Clone Wars are, it's very good. I'm almost done with season 3.
That's the cartoon, right?
Citadel arc. Yes. And it is excellent. As good as advertised. And apparently I haven't even got to the good stuff yet. Like, I've seen good stuff, but I haven't gotten to, like, what everyone freaks out about with that show. There's just so much fan service to, like, the older Star Wars games, but there's still a really good story here. And as someone who really does like the prequels more than the original trilogy, I feel that this show does a lot of service to that era of Star Wars and really builds it a lot more. Like, I thought that I didn't like episode 2 that much, but like I can live with it because I thought 1 and 3 were great. And I know that's a bit of a hot take, at least for episode 1, but I really did like them a lot. But this show just kind of puts on display how much I didn't know about that part of the universe and how insanely good it is when it's executed right. They're just characters I had never heard of that are brought into this show, and they are some of the best parts of it. Like, Savage is one I met. There's also Saj Ventress, which she's like a Night Sister, I think is the name. Like, there's just so much to the Clone Wars era that I was not aware of that I'm like, wow, how did I like what I have previously watched? And it doesn't make them bad. It's just like this adds a ton to it. So, Grimblade writes in, with games potentially increasing to $70, what do you think happens to limited/collector's edition prices? Will we continue to see $100 prices with less pack-ins? Will we see $150 prices to keep the number at a nice round number? I am concerned that we might see more $200 plus collector's editions that are just far too out of a reasonable price range. Yeah, with the games industry going towards digital, I do wonder if they're going to start doing more of the Ultimate Edition without the game to keep the prices down. So you'll get your $150 version, but you can buy the game for $70 separately. So it's a $220 package, or if you already own the game, get it a little bit later, so you're not spending all of that at once, and you can get that separate buy-in for like $150. That'd be my guess. What do you guys think?
So hard to even comment on because I just don't even... I'm not big on these Ultimate Editions. In fact, I don't think I've ever bought an Ultimate Edition. I've bought the Persona Collector's Edition that comes with this, the shit that you never even care about, but you feel like you want because you like the game, you know what I mean? But I just feel the couple times that I did buy like a season pass with something, sometimes I've regretted it. So I'm almost strictly a buy the base game and then expand from there.
I've
So
become that too, yeah.
yeah.
Because I feel like if I like it enough, it's exactly as you said with Persona. I bought the base game. I played it. At first, the first 20 hours, I'm like, this is great, but I'm not in love. So it seems like more of just Persona 5. And then eventually it picks up, and it's just incredible. And once I finished it, I was like, I need to have things connected to this universe that I can put my hands on.
Right.
And so I got Joker's Mask right above me. And it's just cool to have, but... Yeah, I've become that. It may be less cost efficient, but I know now when I buy collector's editions, like I had and still have the Final Fantasy 15 collector's edition, and that was super fucking expensive, and I don't really like the game as much anymore. The figure doesn't stand up on its own because Noctis always wants to fall over. The art book was nice. I don't like Kingsglaive that much as a movie. It's just like I feel like an idiot for buying that because this far out, I'm just like, why did I even do that? I just like to avoid that buyer's regret as much as possible.
The quality is so varying in those.
Mm-hmm.
But
I'm with Dustin. I don't think I've bought it's as far as I remember, at least off the top of my head, I bought a game that has like DLC included or something, but that's not obviously a special edition. I just don't even go there. That's way too much. And when I hear 200, that to me isn't even an addition. That's sorry to anybody who's listening, but I think that's just them taking complete and utter advantage of you because at $200, the game being added, a digital code, is costing them nothing. It's possibly stopping a purchase later on, but if you're spending $200 just for the items, I think you should just get the game regardless. Like it sort of disgusts me that they sell that kind of stuff and there's no game in there. I don't know. Yeah. It's so weird. What's the most expensive premium there's ever been? Is it the boobies from Dead Island, where it was like the zombie chick's breasts? I think that was $299. Is that probably the most expensive?
I know. Was it Darksiders or THQ Nordic had a fucking? I think it was the Destroy All Humans remake. They have a humongously priced fucking collector's edition that I don't think comes with the game, if I remember correctly. But it wasn't even anything. Like, I think it was like I gotta look it up now because I don't think there was anything crazy impressive with it. Destroy All Humans.
Dustin, have you ever noticed also that there'll be like Game of the Year version for a game that never won Game of the Year? And you'll be like,
oh, yeah.
Who's fucking Game of the Year?
What
Who's
is
game?
that?
Yeah, yeah. Whose game? Who gave that Game of the Year? Nobody.
Yeah, I went through a short phase, I think, when I like first got disposable income where I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to get the special edition. And then it's like,
we all go through that, yeah.
Eventually, it's like, why am I even doing this? Because the stuff inside this is trash.
But for $300, you get the game.
Mm-hmm.
You get an eye-popping stress ball alien, a keychain, 6 lithographs, the box it comes in, which I don't know why they need to stop that, by the way. If anyone's listening this far in and you make games or you make collector's editions, stop promoting the fucking boxes. A premium box, they call it. All in-game crypto skins. And you get this Crypto and Cow figurine where you see the UFO kind of planted in the ground, Crypto's flying kind of like this, and there's a cow floating in midair. All that for $300, which is ridiculous. It's called the DNA Collector's Edition. At least that name makes sense, THQ. At least that makes sense. They have really botched the names of some of their things, but at least that makes sense. But yeah, I would not spend my money on that. I think there's a chance that they only go up, but I think what's going to happen is you're going to see a separation. I really do. 2 questions left, gentlemen. Let's push through. Natural Calamity asks us, do you have a personal gaming memory or personal favorite memory of falling in love with a game? My favorite memory is going to a secondhand game store, buying this game off the shelf for $10. Skyrim at the time. I was confused what the hell Skyrim is. But to my dismay, I loaded up the game and immediately fell in love with it. Man, I can't even imagine because I was obsessed with that game prior to its launch. And still am, but like, I was like skipping class to read about that shit. Favorite gaming memory that I fell in... man. You guys got any that come off the top of your head?
I have one I can share quickly. I played, I was checking out the first Danganronpa game on PS Vita, and I started it, and I was really enjoying it, and my wife sat beside me and started to watch me play, and then we ended up playing the entire game with her, like, looking over my shoulder on the Vita, and I was like, no, we can't do this. So I went and I got the PlayStation TV, which is now really hard to get, for $20.
I remember telling you about that.
Used
at
GameStop.
$300 thing.
$20.
Oh,
and then we played Danganronpa 2, and it was awesome. So it was just cool because it felt like we had discovered it together, and so
that's a really good one. Yeah, Danganronpa's so good. I'm trying to think of a game that kind of like sweeps me off my feet, where I'm like, whoa, I didn't expect that. I kind of feel like I felt like that about the Vita in general. I knew when I bought it, it was kind of like an impulse, sure, why not thing. And when I picked it up, the first game I beat was the Uncharted was it Golden Abyss or something like that?
Yes, on the Vita. It was Golden Abyss.
Yeah, I played and beat that, and then I went to Gravity Rush, and Gravity Rush was the game that I was like, wow, this is like such a unique feeling game for this system. Like, how are people not talking about this? So for me, it was like with the Vita of being like completely surprised with what the library offered. Like, it had, obviously most of it's now been ported, but the Vita's library was one of the most underappreciated ones. They originally had Danganronpa exclusively. They had Persona 4 Golden exclusively. Like, if you remotely had interest in Japanese games, oh my god, that place was that is a haven for people like myself. It was incredible. So for me, that's one that kind of, I feel like all these stories have to start off with you being like, yeah, let's give it a shot, and then like it just develops, and that's kind of how it was for me with my Vita.
Yeah, for me it was probably Life is Strange. Because I didn't know anything. The other game, I can't remember. The After Party guys did it, and it was You're on the Island. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Oxenfree?
Yes, Oxenfree. Oxenfree is the only game I've ever played twice in a row, then invited a friend over because I was like, is this as good as I fucking think it is? And then he doesn't even like those games. He was like, this is fucking legit. But I would say also Life is Strange because, like I always joke, I've never wanted to be a 17-year-old girl till I played that game. I was just like, this is the fucking coolest game. Life is Strange was insane, and I didn't know what to expect. It's always nice when you, like, especially as a reviewer, because you sort of know, right? I think we all, like, you'll ask for a game because you're interested. A lot of people get mad at me and be like, why didn't you review this? And I'm like, dude, because I pretty much know that's not my thing, or what have you. And Life is Strange was not my thing, and it turned out to just be. Yeah,
Life is Strange was a game I had that judge a book by its cover moment where I looked at it and went, this looks really cool. And I remember reading about the time travel mechanic with the choices you'd make from a Telltale game, and I was like, this can't be bad. Like, I had that kind of mindset going in, and it actually was legitimately great. So it's just funny that you mentioned that game.
It's so good. I'm glad we have those moments, the surprise moments, because a lot of us know. Right? You sort of know. Like, you God of War. I mean, really? Is there a lot of surprise with God of War? But there is with, like, a Life is Strange.
Yeah, and with these bigger AAA games, you go in with an expectation, like, something should be really good here. And you don't have those, whoa, that blew me away moments as frequently. Last question comes from Coach Blue. If you could ask your dogs one question, what would you ask them? Have a great weekend, boys.
Why haven't you run away? That would be the question I would ask my dogs.
I would ask him. I would have so many questions to ask Revan. I have to ask him one, though. Oh, man. I'd ask him what goes through his mind when he thinks his only solution to... Because my dog's spiteful. I'd ask him why he thinks his only solution to spiting me is taking a dump on my floor. Like, why? Why do you... Like, do you know it's gross? Do you know, like, I don't take pleasure in cleaning up your shit? Like... Is that it? Like, are you aware of that? Like, why do you do that? I would want to get a straightforward answer on that from my dog. That'd be nice to hear.
I feel like it's unfortunate that my question is also disgusting like yours, because it's like my dog Frisk will do the thing where she throws up, and then, like, I have to pull her away from it, or she'll try to eat it, and I'm like,
yeah. Why do you do that?
What reality is this a good idea. But apparently in dogs' reality, it's something they want to do.
There's a military saying called "dogs return to their vomit."
Right. Yeah.
And it's true. It's gross, but it's
I don't get it. I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
It's like they forget. They forget it came out of their mouth, and
they smell the kibble still or something. They're like, hey man, I have to fight my dogs from getting to the other dog's puke too.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, dude, what are you doing? Horrible. Yeah. And it's just like, dude, and you dive in like it's a bomb, like it's a grenade. No, you're like, no, because you know he licks you. So you're like, I don't want you to lick me after, that's happened. It's dogs are loving and awesome, but also grotesque when you think about it.
That's actually a perfect way of painting. Like, Duke got sick one time, so I'm like pulling Revan away, and like while I'm petting Duke to make sure he's okay, and Duke's like, "Oh, thanks, master." He's like licking my hand. I'm like, "Wait, you just puked!" Like, and you just, it's just that
all kinds of bad
combination of nastiness. Anyway, that was our final question for the patron questions that we had available. Dustin, we're nearing 3 hours now, so thank you so much for lending us your time.
Yeah, thank you. That was a blast. Appreciate it.
These 3 hour shows leave me hungry. I'm hungry. I want Peniel vodka, which is in my fridge right now.
Here's the thing. I feel like Karak and I get along because a few times throughout the show, you've briefly said stuff about the performance. Sorry, there's people lighting fireworks like crazy directly across the street. I don't know if you can hear it. It sounds like a war.
It sounded like rain. Rain.
But a few times you're like, but the performance of the game, and I feel like that's something I am very passionate about, is that so many reviews do not talk about poor performance.
Right.
And so the few times you've mentioned that, I've been like, this guy knows.
Yeah, we definitely got to get you back on. It's been a blast. It's always nice also to have somebody that, Matty sometimes gets stuck with a person who's not as big into the stuff he is. So it's nice that you guys sort of like a Fallout. Fallout I'm big into, but there's a lot of times where like Danganronpa and I'm just nodding. I'm nodding, going.
Karak, I give it back to you though. You talk about a TV show.
Any TV show I talk about, you get the glazed look where you're like, I wish this fucking dude would shut up, but I invited him. So.
No, I never want you to shut up. I don't think that at all. It's just more so like I have to like just try to register it and make sure it sticks, right? Like that's the trick. Like what you're saying is always interesting. I have to make sure though it sticks, so when you bring it up later, I can summon that knowledge and carry myself in the next conversation. I'm always like that bench player looking for his opportunity when you talk about a TV show or a movie.
Put me in, coach. I'm ready. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, It's a blast. We definitely need to do this more often. It's very cool.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed this show. If you got this deep and you want to go ahead and let us know, we have our Twitter handles in the description down below. I am at G27status. We have Karak at Jeremy Penter and Dustin as at Dustin Can Fly. What is the origin of that name, real quick, by the way?
Oh, man, I think it was like when I was trying to find something when I was in like 6th or 7th grade. And it was when there was like a light parkour thing going on. And so it's that 7th grade mindset. And now I feel like it still kind of sounds cool. Like it sounds juvenile if I explain it. But
I like it.
It's enough that I don't have to put a number at the end of my name and it's recognizable. So it's
better than AngryCentaurGaming. What the fuck was I thinking? It was a D&D name. And it was like, you name it right, and you don't know if it'll be big, and then it gets bigger and bigger, and you get more followers, and you're like, shit, man.
Yeah, that's me with my Twitter handle.
Wish I could change that.
Status.
Right, because I remember when I started, you were like saying something. I was like, who the fuck is this? And I'd already talked to you. I didn't even know that was your handle. Like,
I'm sure that's happened to a lot of people. They're like, who is that? Oh, that's Matty. Oh. It's just,
yeah, right.
I can't blame him. Yeah, can't blame him. Oh, it's Matty. Anyway, if you got this deep, just put the hashtag trio. I think that's a good one.
Yes.
Let us know you got this deep. And with that, we will definitely talk with you guys in next week's episode, all right? Stay easy, and we'll talk with you soon. Peace out.